Imagine you wake up in a parallel world, where the gender ratio is perfectly balanced, one man for every 5 women. Sounds like every guy's dream, right? But don't rush to rejoice. Because here women are not just persistent, they are huntresses. Meet Masato. He is sure that he simply lives by a lucky university schedule among helpful girlfriends. But he doesn't suspect that the sweet older woman from work is pretending. In fact, she is recording how he takes a shower. His sweet classmate mentally cleans out any girl who gets too close. He thinks he is popular. We know he knows how to pray. But will our naive heroes survive a day in a world where it's enough just to smile and here comes the war? Well then, let's figure it out. But almost everyone probably has dreamed at least once of being liked by the opposite sex. Somehow like that. A random woman forcibly throws herself on the protagonist named Masato and pulls him along. She asks, "Let's hang out." He thinks he never wanted this. When he modestly refuses, as is proper, the girl insists that he still give her his contact information. But when he realizes that she will not back down until she gets it, Masato gives in and reaches for his phone. At that very moment, a girl catches up to him and clings to his hand, which, to Kumi, whom he addresses, reminds him that class is about to start, and pulls him away from the strange woman, thinking that running away like this is a bit rude. Masato looks back and freezes in horror as soon as she sees the fierce expression on the woman's face after she clicked her tongue. Later at the university, Kumi reminds Masato he can simply ignore people like them. Masato explains that for him it is not as simple as it sounds. Ignoring others is harder, and Kumi just replies that he is simply too kind. That is why he scares her just like that. He thinks that he should not even talk to her about the university student, although in this world perhaps she is really right. Masato is not from this world. He was transferred here a month ago. At first he noticed nothing strange. Everything too much resembled his previous world. But very quickly he understood everything here. The gender ratio is completely skewed. 1 man to 5 women. He does not know where such a sharp imbalance came from. But because of this, women in this world are much more persistent. There are even fresh talks about introducing polygamy. When he finally understood all this, at first he was overwhelmed by real horror. In his native world, he had friends from school. They would all laugh together at nonsense. And only when he lost this usual life did he finally realize how precious it really was. He was sure that his ordinary life was over, but fortunately, a person appeared who joined as a guardian. And he found a friend who supports him anytime he gets into trouble again. Not everything, however, turned out so bad. Due to the skewed gender distribution, a pretty girl, Kumi, now pays attention to him. Perhaps he himself thinks he got a bit lucky, so he keeps a positive attitude and does not let doubt take over. Although the world has changed, he still plans to live as normally as possible. And when he smirks maliciously to himself, Kumi nearby smiles warmly and immediately understands how truly simple-hearted he is. A week ago, Kumi was walking to the university, yawning and realizing that night she clearly overdid it with the game. And now she is insanely irritated. She does not like how the players from Oppo behave, and she is sure they should not enter the game just for attention. Having digested this inside herself, Kumi headed to her class and on the way caught someone discussing her. As soon as she turned to the voices, 2 men appeared before her. One shamelessly claimed he gave her 85 points for appearance, and the other smugly insisted she barely passed. One of them even threw out if Kumi asked he might think about her. Kumi snapped and walked away in anger, not understanding why men are so arrogant. She was convinced they did not make any special efforts and they have nothing truly exceptional. And also due to the gender ratio, they behaved arrogantly as if everything was allowed to them and spoke as if doing her a favor. While these unacceptable thoughts were spinning in her head, Kumi bumped into a boy and quickly apologized. He replied that everything was fine. But then he, completely out of the blue, asked if she had fallen in love with him at first sight, and suggested that Kumi could become his 3rd girlfriend. This is exactly the kind of behavior she expected, and now she could barely contain her own irritation. Later in class, she still walks around with that morning flash of anger after that scuffle. Mizuho notices this and asks what happened. At this pace, Kami is unlikely to make it to the 5th lesson. Kumi agrees and Mizuho adds to her, if everything continues like this, she will not become popular, and they will have to hold on for the sake of that student life they once dreamed of. Having said this, Mizuho cheerfully raises her hand and declares that they need to catch a handsome boy. Kumi still finds it hard to come to terms with this. There are few menthe are valued, but she cannot endure those watchful glances. Then Mizuho asks directly who Kumi is looking at in their badminton club. Kumi replies that no one comes to her mind, and Mizuho immediately points out, Kato from the club is very handsome. Kyumi agrees. It turns out she really does not want a boyfriend, no. She is just tired of always ending up in the role of the one who is chosen. She prefers a guy who is kind to women, treats them as equals and looks neater. But she still knows, such luxury in this world is almost like something from a fairy tale. Mizuho says that although Kyumi is very sweet, surprisingly she is not at all aggressive. She is convinced, if Kyumi does not approach anyone, she will eventually remain lonely. And Kami also herself believes that there is truth in this. Later after classes, Kyumi receives very annoying news. Her next class was cancelled, and there was no one nearby who had free time. Just as she begins to get irritated by inactivity, she hears nearby someone sounds incredibly confused and cannot figure out which classes to choose. It turns out to be Masato, sitting on the neighboring bench with a laptop and looking extremely exhausted. Kyumi feels that the boy is clearly at the end, but as soon as she looks around, there is no one else nearby. She recalls what men can be like and confidently waits. Someone will definitely come to his aid. But still leaving him alone is unbearably wrong. She does not yet understand why she is so drawn to him. There is something different in him, not like in others. He seems beautiful to her, not in a star style, so it is definitely not about appearance. It rather feels as if something inside him is glowing. She decides to approach him, convincing herself that she expects nothing extra, just a little curiosity. That's all. She approaches and asks if he is trying to register for courses, and he answers affirmatively. With a smile, he adds that for some reason his enrollment was delayed, and this throws Kumai off balance. She is so surprised that she involuntarily thinks, did men ever know how to smile so naturally? She already wants to offer help, but gets flustered from nervousness, and panic overwhelms her completely. She is afraid that Masato will notice and take it as something strange. But his gaze suddenly lights up when he asks if she really agrees to help, and this reaction unexpectedly throws her off balance. She sharply turns her head aside, trying to hide her surprise at his pure, sincere smile. Meanwhile, Masato moves closer, gives her a seat, and begins to talk about his department. This surprises her even more. She wonders if he moved just so she could sit next to him, and if she will lose her composure if she does the same. If that happens, Kyumi is sure. She will really cry at her age and they will call her crazy. As soon as Masato asks what happened, Kyumi instinctively sits down and waves it off, as if to say it's nothing. Looking at his screen, Kyumi says that they are in the same department and the same faculty. Feeling this, Masato exhales in surprise and immediately realizes that he is incredibly lucky to be next to a straightforward senior who helps. Kyumi quickly explains that she is also a first-year student, and Masato involuntarily freezes with a confused expression on his face. Kyumi starts to panic again. Could it be that she was too bold for a first year and Masato might have read her actions as an attempt to hide her true intentions? But it turns out that Masato, on the contrary, is glad about this. He has no friends in his year at all, so her help really means a lot to him. Smiling warmly and sincerely, he introduces himself as Katasato Masato and asks her name. Kyumi is shocked by this. He is kind and friendly, not at all like other boys. She tries to calm down and forces a smile so as not to cause herself even more embarrassment. And then, she names herself Igarashi Kyumi and smiling directly at him, brightly holds the pause. She turns her face away again and wonders if she greeted him well enough. Masato says that he does not know which classes to choose. But as soon as she looks closely, she realizes Kyumi has a completely empty schedule with him. Seeing this, she thoughtfully considers whether it is time to take advantage of the opportunity. Since they are in the same department, it should be fine for him to attend the same classes as her. She snaps out of her thoughts when Masato calls her by name, and her voice trembles nervously when she suggests, as if they could share the same schedule. She explains that some subjects are already in their second semester, and if she is already attending them, she can explain and share handouts that will definitely be useful to him. But she speaks too fast when nervous and fears that Masato will think she is kind of strange. Instead, Masato quietly calls her and asks if she is a genius. He nods yes, this really can help, but still asks if she is sure since there is no benefit for her here. She reassures, there is plenty of benefit for her, so everything is fine. Kyumi suddenly starts looking around confusedly, as if this is a dream. Why does Masato suspect nothing and why is he not laughing at her? When Masato was helped to choose classes, he thanks her and she cannot believe she did something special for him. Then he adds that he is going home. Without a student ID card, it simply makes no sense for him to attend classes. Kyumi supports him and says they will see each other as soon as he starts attending. She is glowing. For the first time, she really enjoys talking to a guy, and she definitely knows she will see him every day. She catches the moment when Masato looks back and immediately asks what happened. For a second he holds back words before saying, He needs a favor and does so at the very moment when she clarifies what exactly he means, Masato says, "You can be my friend if that's okay with you." It cuts her heart to the very depths. Her whole life she was chosen, but for the first time in her life there is a chance to choose herself. Breaking free from her own days, she answers, "Of course they can be friends." This incredibly pleases Masato, and he says that he still doesn't have a single friend. He adds to her that it is thanks to her that he begins to look forward to university and then leaves, just after saying goodbye. When Masato disappears from sight, Kyumi sits on the ground and clutches her chest, quietly whispering, "I can't endure anymore." Her heart beats wildly, and she again and again repeats Masato's name. For her, he is like a prince, the very man she always dreamed of, and now she wants everything about him. But for this, she must not take her eyes off him, otherwise other girls will immediately rush in, while he doesn't even move a finger and won't notice at all. Returning to the present and walking together, Masato suddenly stops, causing Kyumi to anxiously ask what happened. He insists that it's nothing and asks her to extend her hand. For a moment she does it immediately, without any questions. Masato puts 2 candies into her palm as thanks for earlier, apologizing that it's just a snack. With a smile, he thanks her for coming to help again. Her heart beats wildly from this and she involuntarily blurts out loud, "This is unfair." Just as you are about to ask what exactly she means, she sharply clarifies, "Nothing." She feels it is unfair that Masato does what she has only dreamed of for years, that someone special does it just for her. But he surprises her with small acts of kindness and they make her chest feel warmer. She believes his kindness saved her then, although now as before she still finds it hard. And yet she is certain, one day she will become his girlfriend. A few days passed, outside near Masato's apartment someone reminds him that it is almost noon. He only replies, "I know." A month has already passed since the day Masato came to this parallel world. In this world, here before him was already one Katasato Masato, a recent graduate preparing to enter university. At first Masato felt out of place as soon as he arrived here, but over time he learned to live an ordinary life. All thanks to a person named Tsukuda Eika. After she greeted him good morning, she reminds him that he has a shift today and asks him to come to the store at 6 p.m. She also helped him immediately as soon as he appeared in this world. Since then, she has become something like a guardian to him, a goddess whom he himself considers a goddess. Although she is married, it seems she and her husband have not been together for a long time. Eika says she noticed him washing himself just before going to work and adds, "No need to go that far." Masato replies that he washes late because he trains and sweats. Then she asks how things are at the university, whether he has already found friends, and Masato answers yes. She becomes wary and warns, not to let some quirky girl deceive him, and also if he suddenly stays out late to tell her immediately. And in general, she has had enough of these respectful titles. Masato agrees to everything and quickly leaves, and she sighs irritably. He still did not back down from this. A little later, he arrives in class and Kyumi calls him. She has already saved a seat for him. He thanks her, sits down and feels relief and gratitude. She is his friend after all. Suddenly, she tugs his hand to get his attention and suggests having dinner together as thanks for saving him a seat. Masato freezes at her charm and wonders who she is. He even doubts whether he likes her at all. He quickly recovers, dismisses the thought as nonsense, and tells her that he cannot today, he has a shift. She asks if his shift is always on Fridays, and he answers that it is something like that. Then she clarifies about Monday and he agrees. Such an answer makes her very happy and she lets out a small yay. Masato again looks at her excessive kindness with surprise and wonders, is she just pretending or simply can't be any other way? Then he orders himself to pull himself together and puts the brakes on everything because she is so sweet. Then Masato thinks about his native world. Most likely, he wouldn't even come close to her. She looks like a truly very popular girl. He knows almost nothing about her friends but is sure of one thing, they will definitely want to be in the same class with her. Because of this, his conscience gnaws at him a little for keeping her to himself, and he asks if she is really okay with such an arrangement. When she looks confused, Masato asks directly if it wouldn't be better for her to take lessons with her friends, not with him. She objects and explains she can see her friends at club activities or elsewhere. Then he tells her that she should also attend classes together with her girlfriends and adds himself, saying that he has already caught up on gaps in his studies and can manage without anyone's help. Hearing this, Kyum asks him why he is forcing a fake smile with empty eyes. This shocks Masato. He wonders if he said something wrong because although she is smiling, it suddenly feels creepy. A few minutes ago, even before Masato appeared, Kyum entered the classroom and did not find him there. Because of this, she decided to leave a place for him and already halfway through writing, wondered, wouldn't it be funny, really cringy, if she added a heart? And she only shakes her head. She thinks he won't be offended. A month has already passed since she met Masato. And she understands that he is too kind, too much so, and because of this she feels anxious. What will happen if some terrible woman decides to start weaving intrigues against him? So she firmly decides to protect him, and for this she plans to stay close to him all the time, as long as she can during university. That's how it seems to her. Someday he will fall in love with her. Just the fact that she imagines this makes her protect him even outside the university. At that very moment, she receives a message from Masato. He sends a thank you emoji and she finds it cute. But there is one but. They spend so much time together that she begins to doubt. Maybe this is exactly the chance needed to move forward in their relationship. It is then that Masato appears and the thought firmly takes root in her. She wants to see him as her boyfriend. Therefore, she cannot confess until she is sure he will not push her away, so she has to act step by step carefully. When the next step comes the very date, she gets completely lost, imagining how she will see him outside this university world and get to know him better. So she asks him to treat her to food, and although she understands that this is very bold, she has to do it so that he finally pays attention to her. Then he starts talking about changes, and she suggests Monday. He agrees to make her happy. Choking with joy, she decides where they will go and wonders whether she should ask Masato directly. Then Masato asks her if she really feels okay about not spending time with her other friends. Her thoughts darken each time she answers, no, that's not true, and she begins to guess what exactly he meant. Next, just in conversation, a clear thought ripens in Kumi's mind. She wants to be with Masato. Even the time they spend together never seems enough, so his question pushes her toward the anxious thought. Maybe he doesn't need me. When Kumi asks why, Masato freezes, shock spreads across his face, and he finally just answers that it seemed to him as if she wants to attend classes with other girls too. Then Kumi asks if he doesn't like practicing with her. The question she doesn't dare to say aloud still peeks out from under her skin. It feels like a trance covers her, and it is felt even without words. She asks again if it wouldn't be better for him to take classes with some other girl. She thinks that someone like her will eventually just become unpleasant, and she tries with all her might not to let that happen. In her thoughts, she begs Masato, don't go where you can't reach and don't push her away. She suddenly comes to her senses, and Masato again and again refuses, insisting that it is by no means the same. He tells her that he is grateful. Such a beautiful girl like her allows him to attend classes together with her, and there is nothing better than that. He also adds that besides her, he has no other friends. Kumi almost freezes when he calls her beautiful, so she immediately asks if he really thinks she is cute. He confirms this and says that what he really thinks is, she would do well to have more confidence. Kumi's face flashes bright red. She is overwhelmed with panic at being called cute. The way he says it, a person she likes, makes her simply insanely happy. She grabs her face and starts to giggle quietly. Later, after classes, they part ways, but something still lingers in Kumi's mind. It came out naturally. She inadvertently revealed to Masato what she hadn't intended to say, especially since Masato hadn't even touched on the topic of wanting to attend classes with another girl. While she is lost in thought, her friend Mitsuhodo suddenly appears and grabs her hand sharply, so that Kumi trembles with fright. Mizuho teasingly in a friendly way says, "What is that love-struck expression on your face?" Kumi quickly denies everything, although she blushes, thinking maybe she really does have that kind of face. Noticing this, Mizuho teases, saying she is making a diva face. Then she asks Kushi when he will introduce him to her, clarifying that she means the boy who is always in class together with Kushi. She also reminds her they promised to share information about boys. She says that just as Kyugi said they couldn't be in the same class, some boy was already sitting right next to her. And she herself is not indifferent to attractive men, so she is glad that Kume finally found someone for herself. It is then that Kumo bows low and loudly apologizes. She says she cannot introduce this guy to Mitsugo. Stunned, Mizuho asks why, and Kumi apologizes again and repeats that she is serious. She has firmly decided not to give him to anyone, so she has no right to introduce him to another girl. But as soon as she insists further, Lady Yuyuhu. She accepts this and replies that she cannot believe it. Kumi said such a thing, and while bowing to her best friend. Then she orders Kumi to inform her about other guys. Kumi agrees, says she will do her best, and apologizes once more before thanking her. Mizuho hugs her, holds her even tighter, and starts teasing, saying that she will get the guy first. And Kuma replies, don't touch her in strange places. Mizuho orders her to give it her all, and Kumi becomes even more determined. Since I fell in love with Masato, every day has become more fun, and everything around her seems to shimmer. But when other girls get closer to him, a dark feeling rises inside, and Kumi begins to wonder if she herself is not enough. Yet still, because it is Masato, she believes. For his sake, she is capable of anything and will give him everything. When Kyumi thinks about it, she suddenly realizes she is one of those people who get jealous very easily. Meanwhile, Masato is dribbling the basketball and thinking about what Kami said earlier, and he comes to the conclusion, probably everything is fine since she looked happy then. Just as he was about to throw the ball into the hoop, a girl's voice sounded behind him. A girl is calling him. They seem to recognize each other as a conversation barely starts, and Kyumi at the university involuntarily thinks that she probably wouldn't like it if Masato was dating another girl. A few moments before that, because today is Friday, Masato came to the basketball court to play. According to his schedule, he plans to play until his part-time job starts. He likes this place. On weekdays there is no one here, so he can focus on the game, but he can't truly enjoy it. This world is entirely women. And since Kyumi ordered him not to join her club, now he can only train alone. Hardly does he manage to realize he is no longer alone when a short-haired girl calls him. She insists that today she will definitely win and make him give her this place. With a self-satisfied expression, he calls her a little girl and asks if she came again. Annoyed, she declares, "I am not a little girl." This girl is Mita Yuka, whom he met shortly after he ended up in this world. He found this place simply because he wanted to play basketball. But he quickly realized Yuka had been training here long before he even appeared. When they met for the first time, he gave up his spot and said he was going back so she could use it peacefully. The next time they met again, he again tried to give her the spot, but she instead asked for a match. From that day, he was sure they became much closer. But before he could understand exactly how it happened, their matches turned into a struggle for the right to declare themselves the owner of this place. Now he is sure his advantage is only in the height difference. Judging by what he has already seen, Yuka is incredibly talented, so he is convinced when she grows up, he will lose. It is then that she declares she has a secret strategy today and tries to slip past him. He immediately recognizes her. Since he has already seen this move, he tries to block her, but that is exactly what she expects. As soon as he steps inside, she smoothly turns and slips past him from the opposite direction. Although he understands her plan, it is already too late, and Yuka is sure she has succeeded. Unfortunately, she stumbles, the ball slips from her hands, and she is about to fall face forward. But Masato manages to catch her in time, intercepts the fall, and breaks the strike. This puts them in an extremely awkward position. Masato understands instantly, when his whole life flashes before his eyes, and he imagines that he is about to be arrested. Realizing that she needs to move quickly, he calls her. But she remains silent, and from this pause he completely loses the thread. As it turns out, she realizes her situation too late, and completely confused faints. This strikes Masato right in the soul. Yuka, already unconscious, suddenly remembers the first time she finally managed to talk to him properly. A month ago, Yuka was walking to school when one of her friends told her she was dating someone and confessed during the graduation ceremony. Then that friend asked Yuka if she had confessed to anyone, and Yuka replied that she had no one she liked. For her, all the kids in the class were just annoying. One day she started sweating, and the outline of her underwear became visible, so two boys immediately began commenting on her bra. Hearing this, she hurriedly tried to hide, but another boy immediately cut in. She was supposedly too tall and there was no need for that. He argued with him and said he had heard that basketball makes people taller. But the second disagreed, saying no one likes tall girls, only maniacs, that's what they do, you see. To ease the tension, one of Yuka's friends mockingly asked if she was the right size for him, and this humiliated the boy so much that he responded in his own way, saying no one wants someone like her. Then the girl called him a scoundrel and stated that Yuka really stood out, at least that's what her friends thought, although Yuka herself did not feel that at all. Because she was a little taller than everyone else, they teased her, and everyone around decided her worth without even asking what hurt her and why she herself considered it unacceptable. Because of this, she found nothing attractive in any of the boys, but instead got much more joy from playing basketball. That's why her friends called her a true basketball fan. Unlike Yuka, they joined the club to be closer to the boys. And then one of them suddenly declared that Yuka was secretly a pervert. Stunned, Yuka quickly tried to deny it, but the friend did not back down. They said everyone had long known that Yuka secretly read dirty books in class. While another friend was about to confess that she recently found something suspicious under Yuka's bed, Yuka hurriedly shut her mouth. She believed if she was a girl, she couldn't resist, which meant she involuntarily had an interest in men. Later, having parted with her friends, she came to the basketball court and immediately noticed someone there. At that time, it was a rarity. When she hesitated whether they could take turns using the court, since there were only the two of them, she realized the other was a boy, Masato. It seemed strange to her to see a boy training alone, and very quickly she was impressed by how swiftly and skillfully he worked. She had only seen such moves on television, so this was her first live encounter with someone playing so masterfully. She was completely captivated by the sight. She froze by the wire fence as if glued, while watching Masato play. As soon as she thought he was incredibly cool, he noticed her standing nearby and their eyes met. The heart was wildly pounding as soon as she realized how handsome he was, and she wondered if he smelled nice. That threw her off track, and she wondered if he was leaving because she had come. And she also noticed how kind he was. He gave up his seat. But she immediately realized that if they parted here, she might never see him again. She ordered herself to be brave, but as soon as he passed by, not a sound came from her mouth. She was overwhelmed by such shyness that her heart tightened. Once she was silent, Masato left, and all she could do was watch him go inside. Yet she clung to the thought, there will be another time, because she considered herself a girl who never gives up. That is why the very next Friday, as soon as she noticed Masato from her class, she rushed headlong to the court, leaving her friends behind. Without stopping, she ran the entire way from the classroom to the court, and stopped only in front of it to catch her breath. She immediately felt better as soon as she saw he was there. After their first meeting, he had not appeared and she was terribly worried. Watching him play, she could not look away. She was mesmerized by every move he made and felt again he was just as cool as ever. As soon as she stepped onto the basketball court, Masato immediately recognized her. The fact that he remembered her melted joy inside her, and she finally understood. She needed to say something right now, so she would never again be afraid of not seeing him again. Summoning her courage, she asked him to play a match with her, and this confused Masato. Noticing his reaction, Yuka involuntarily faltered in her thoughts. Did he think she was eccentric? But instead, Masato nodded and said he was just looking for someone to play with. With a self-satisfied expression, he warned her that he would not go easy on her. When he ordered her to go first, she felt kindness in his words and barely believed that she could really play basketball with him. When they started the game, she failed to beat him, but she liked it more than anything she had ever felt. And she wanted this moment to last forever. Masato was impressed and said she was great. She thanked him, although she never managed to outplay him even once. She saw that Masato played basketball incredibly well. Before, she had never managed to defeat boys her age, and that made the victory seem even sweeter. She laughed, twisting her lips into a smile. Then Masato asked if she or he was out of breath, and remembered that they needed to drink water. When she looked into her bag, she realized she had simply forgotten the water bottle. Masato offered his, but she nervously refused, insisting she had at least some money and could buy one. He said she shouldn't worry and insisted she take his. When he handed her the bottle, she noticed. It was already open, so it turned out he had already taken a sip from it. At this thought that drinking from it was almost an indirect kiss, she was overwhelmed with shame and complete confusion. She tried to pull herself together, but couldn't stop her trembling, hot breath she wanted so badly to swallow and drink. Trying to convince herself that this is completely normal, she was about to take a sip, but her thoughts immediately got confused and climbed to Masato's lips. Before she could even swallow, consciousness faded. Since then, she remembers how Masato looks seductive. And although an indirect kiss never happened, she strangely feels lucky just to sit on his chest. Barely a thought manages to flash through her mind. She comes to her senses and Masato asks if she is okay. She answers that everything is fine, but as soon as she realizes she has fainted again, she involuntarily thinks, does Masato now consider her strange? He reassures her everything is fine. But it is already too late, so he suggests they go home for today and she agrees. Yuki's mood falls, even though she finally got a chance to be with him, and she feels like she ruined everything. Masato puts his hand on her shoulder and says everything is fine, saying that he will return next week so she can take the court case again. His smile and how close he stands deeply embarrass her. Oni gives her his towel, orders her to wipe the sweat properly, and assures her that it is freshly washed and he has another one for himself. The idea of using Masato's towel makes her heart beat wildly. He encourages her, asks her to be more confident. Although today did not go perfectly, her strategy was excellent and every time it will get even better. This also makes him feel better. Having said this, he leaves, promising her that they will meet again next week. As soon as he disappears, Yuka reaches for the towel and realizes Masato always says exactly what she wants to hear. Since they met, she already realizes how wonderful it is to love someone. Her heart now belongs to him completely. While she thinks it over, she presses the towel to her lips and wonders if it is normal for a person like her to feel that way about him. Then she quietly apologizes to Masato for being a bad girl. Later, Masato takes a part-time job right in a bar. No matter how long he worked there, he still can't get used to the atmosphere. The worst part is seeing Senpai, who was always kind to him, acting way too kissy, and it's really painful. When Aika took him in, she set a condition: he would work in her bar festa. Everyone treats him kindly, the work is not hard, but the coquettish atmosphere cannot get used to it. Fortunately, since he is not yet of age to drink, he cannot sit with the clients. But suddenly one of the women turns to him and asks to drink together with her. He politely refuses, explains that he cannot drink, and it is clear how much this irritates her until one of his elders intervenes and distracts her with his natural charm. Masato steps back with a relieved sigh, but since he cannot drink, he is unable to accept most of the client's requests, can only listen to them. It was then that one of his colleagues approached and said that a request had come from table 3, adding, "A regular client," teasingly saying Masato now has a steady one and ordering him to take good care of her. Understanding who that usual client might be, Masato quickly heads to table 3 and hastily. Masato greets a woman named Sarah. When he says that she has come again, Sarah nervously replies that she just happened to have free time, and he is almost certain. Last week she said the same thing. This woman Machizuki Sarah is a bit older, and Masato wonders why she repeatedly asks him something so simple and boring. Sarah notes that it was probably not easy dealing with that previous client, and Masato immediately understands. She witnessed that scene. He reproaches himself and thinks that clients come here to drink and have fun, but he is the one who can do neither. Sarah agrees. She says it is ironic that he works in such a place if he cannot even drink. When he speaks in a gloomy tone, she tries to cheer him up with the phrase, "I don't care." She did not come to drink with anyone, and she declares that she is the perfect match for him, so he should be grateful to her. Masato, realizing this, chuckles and nods. They really are the perfect pair. He thanks her for the words that cheered him up so much. He thinks that although sometimes Sarah is hard to read, she is still a good person. At that very moment, her friend appears and teases, saying that Sarah is madly in love with Masato. Sarah blushes embarrassedly, but immediately brushes it off, saying she came only because Senpai invited her. She insists that she chose Masato only because talking with him is the lesser evil. And he replies, "I don't care," and that he is happy under any circumstances. He adds that here he can truly only listen, so he enjoys hearing her stories. When she asks if he says that to everyone, he firmly denies it. Then he hands her a glass and makes a pointed remark. She is the only client strange enough to order him specifically. She first freezes in surprise, then bursts into delight. The truth is, only she can choose him. Masato exhales with relief. It really brings her joy. Before, she didn't look healthy at all, and he was very worried. While Masato shows her a photo of his cat, Sarah quietly thinks, he is cute, and thanks to him, she is able to move on. A month before this, Sarah had a quarrel at the office with a senior colleague. He spoke condescendingly and loudly, saying, "No wonder even men run away from her." Hearing this, everyone in the office whispered together, wondering if she was really dumped. One of the colleagues even admitted that man never believed they were dating. Her first university boyfriend also dumped her. First he asked if she was really serious, then confessed he already had 2 other girlfriends. She was broken. Before, she could still get angry or hate and curse at her own stupidity. She asked herself why she felt good with such a person. Maybe because everyone around had boyfriends and she burned with jealousy. She wondered if any girl could believe this and again blamed herself. What a fool she was. Since then she lived alone so that no jealousy remained. Wakes up, works, falls asleep, and again in a circle. One day, one of her female colleagues suggests they go to a boys' bar, a place she always visits, and says there are handsome guys there. So it would supposedly benefit mental health. Sarah honestly just wants to go home and sleep. But since colleague Maki has been helping her so much lately, she can't refuse. Maki adds that Sarah has not been looking very well lately, so she decided to invite her. Maybe it will make things easier. Hearing this, Sarah is surprised and immediately agrees. Maki is so delighted that she hugs her and confidently says, Sarah will definitely like this, and Sarah sincerely hopes so too. Although she had never been to places of that kind and considered herself a boring woman, she still could not refuse Maki's attentive gesture. She decides to chat a little at the end, pretend everything is fine, and quickly dash home. When she enters the bar, Maki greets the guy she definitely knows. And she answers in a quiet, gentle voice, saying that she has come again. This shocks Sarah. She doubts whether Maki really sounds like that. While she is still digesting what she heard, a guy named Yusuke asks whom she wants to invite tonight, and Maki instantly replies, of course, him, because she is devoted to him. The girlish soul of the senpai shocks so deeply and unexpectedly that she wishes never to see it again. And at that very moment, even more handsome boys approach them, and Sarah swoons and blushes as soon as she notices them. Sitting down and taking a few sips, she suddenly realizes the guys really attract her, so she thinks maybe this will really lift her mood. But at the same time, she is gripped by another feeling. Such men most likely laugh at them inside as if these are just worthless women who need to be paid to even talk to men. But despite everything, the boys smile and talk to them extremely politely without a trace of irritation. So it turns out they did nothing wrong. She feels it. Lately she is hopelessly drawn into negativity. Now she just wants to go home, and although she hopes that the owner assigned to her will arrive soon, she still doubts that she will like it. She still plans to leave a little later as soon as a decent conversation takes place, because she has so much homework to catch up on tomorrow. Wondering if it would be nice to sleep until noon, she hears a call. A voice addresses her. Malady. The voice belongs to Masato. He greets her warmly and professionally. As soon as she sees him, an involuntary thought flashes through her mind. Maybe he is an angel, but Masato meanwhile asks her name. Confused, she quickly turns her face away and answers that it is Sarah. She looks at him in surprise, a boy with such an innocent appearance and such a childlike face, that she involuntarily feels the desire to protect him. Masato asks if she came after work and she replies, "Tomorrow is a day off." Masato immediately says, "That's great," and I explain, when there is a day of rest ahead to look forward to, Friday evenings become truly exciting. She laughs quietly and nods, surprised that she simply smiled. She thinks the reason is that Masato is not at all what she had imagined. When he asked what she would do on her day off, she casually admits she recently got hooked on games and immediately regretted it. She felt it sounded too nerdy, and Masato would now think she was some kind of geek. But instead he looks interested and asks what games she likes to play. She answers confusedly, RPGs, and Masato adds that he also loves RPGs. He says that he needs and wants to hear her advice. As soon as she hears this, panic thoughts surge like a wave. She feels that he is mocking her, and any conversations with such a boring woman like her are just part of his job. But she remembers, this place is for her pleasure, and she stops overthinking, drinking the entire drink in one gulp. Then she pours all her anger onto the boss and tells how she was humiliated in front of everyone, and Masato agrees that it is truly terrible. Later she realizes that she just vented everything out, and wonders why she said it at all and how much she has already drunk. And even then she does not stop. She insists that the real idiot is herself, because she believed that her ex-boyfriend wanted a relationship and allowed herself to get involved. Masato asks if he was the one who invited her. He confirms, and she adds that she should have understood long ago how foolishly she behaved. Masato voices his opinion. He says that it is terrible and that she did nothing wrong. To this she replies, "It is just like that for women." Masato says that it is unforgivable and that they really have no choice. He insists, if there are fewer men than women, that does not make men superior. And he does not just say it, he shows how fiercely he hates guys who are arrogant because of this. Saru even swears. Why is he angry because of her if he could just lean back and wait? Women, if they wanted, would swarm to him and shower him with attention, but he behaves completely differently from the men she knows. Masato then adds that if everything depended on him, he would want to date someone like Saru. These words threw her off balance, her eyes widened in surprise. And it also seems to her as if something clicked and snapped in her chest. Since that day she cannot get Masato out of her head, and since then her world has become much brighter. She begins to polish herself to be worthy of Masato, and from that moment work no longer seems a burden. Every effort she makes becomes something she wants to share with him. She even has a photo of him saved on her phone, and she looks at him every night. She can no longer imagine her life without him. Turning back to her first time at the bar, Maki tells Sari that they are leaving and asks how much longer she plans to flirt. Sari quickly objects, calls Masato lanky but hurt. The voice trembles. She cannot continue because she thinks Masato looks cool from any angle, simply flawless. And now she will beg someone. Give her at least some credit for managing to call him lanky, somehow in despair, to find at least something wrong with him. She never even thought of mocking him, and now she only apologizes embarrassedly, calling herself a pathetic adult in her head. Misadu says that she realizes how skinny he is, but holding her hand to support her, he asks, "Come again." At that very moment she realizes she likes him. But the trouble is, as long as he works here, he will entertain anyone who asks, and she cannot even imagine that. She does not want any other woman to sit next to him. Therefore, she quietly tells him that he cannot fulfill anyone else's request except hers. Masato agrees to tell her that he works only on Fridays, so she will be able to call him every Friday. She considers it unfair. If he sets such rules, she will have to come every week, and she doesn't really like that and definitely doesn't enjoy it. Even Fridays seem like too little time because she wants to be with him more often. Suddenly Maki hugs her from behind, quietly asks what they were flirting about, and whether Sarah is using her while Maki was paying. Before Sarah can answer, Maki, with a cute grimace and playful voice, cuts in that it can't be so. This annoys Sarah and she orders Maki to erase it from her memory. Maki says she was lucky to see something entertaining and advises to look elsewhere. And Sarah gets angry, now she can't even tease Maki about what happened earlier. Putting that aside, her life began to feel exciting again, and she believes that both Masato and Maki deserve credit for this. After spending a little more time together, they say goodbye and agree to meet again on Monday. Later, staying past midnight, Sarah checks the schedule looking for where the last train is. Glancing out of the corner of her eye, she notices Masato in casual clothes, heading home. She herself knows that this is not allowed, and that technically it is considered a crime but still starts following him. He senses something wrong, sharply turns around and does not see Sarah. She has disappeared, hiding behind a pole. Deciding that it is just a trick of his imagination, he goes on, and Sarah feels relief and finally exhales. She knew she was a dirty woman, but not that much, and just the thought of it makes her nauseous with herself. Still, she follows him all the way to the residential complex, stands in front of his door and learns his full name. She writes down the address, convincing herself that she will never use it for anything. But then she is gnawed by the question, why is she writing it down at all? And she stops, staring at her own behavior. What is wrong with her? She hears the shower running in the bathroom through the window and begins to giggle quietly. Leaning against the wall, she reaches with her thoughts to where she wants. He has only one thin barrier left and he is in the soul. When she finally understands how completely everything has broken down, and how relentlessly this feeling has already turned into a process that cannot be stopped. The recording interface appears on her phone screen. In a few days, Aka informs Masato that a package has arrived from the establishment, and he thanks her. As soon as he opens it and begins to unpack the things, he notices several details exactly the same as those he had in his previous world. But among them, there are also unfamiliar things. In that world, he lived in foster care. And it seems Masato did the same with this world, so he begins to wonder if these two somehow switched places. Aka assures him, whoever his past life baggage may be, she has already decided to take care of him, but adds if he ever wants to return to the facility, he just needs to let her know. After a short pause, Masato replies that he does not want this. He thanks her for everything she has done, asks to look forward and promises, after graduation he will repay her. In response, she strokes his head and says, enjoy your campus life for now and worry about the rest when the time comes. This makes Masato wonder, is this exactly how it feels to have parents? And he hopes that the previous Masato from this world also met someone like Aka. Meanwhile, Kumi checks herself in the shop window glass. She has already finished her skincare routine and is confident that she now looks like the cutest version of herself. Just then Masato calls her so unexpectedly that she flinches. Today is their movie day. He apologizes for surprising her and says that the outfit suits her, and her mood immediately brightens. She suggests they go get some clothes since there is still time before the film and asks if he minds. He mumbles that it's all right and jokingly asks if she can pick something really cool for him. She takes it upon herself and stubbornly rummages through the clothes until she finds an outfit that will make him look even cooler. In a moment they leave the store with purchases many times larger than planned. Almost everything is for him. She shrugs guiltily, admits that she got carried away, but simply couldn't resist. Everything looked just wonderful on him. He immediately reassures her, saying that everything is fine and that she helped incredibly because he won't have to buy any more clothes for a while. When they finally settled in the cinema, he noticed that the hall was unexpectedly empty and involuntarily thought, maybe it's because today is a weekday. Then he adds that this is his first time watching a film in a cinema, while in Kumi's mind something else spins that they are almost alone together. In her thoughts, she asks Masato if he understands why she chose a romantic movie, and she really hopes that he will start noticing her, even if just a little. She becomes curious about how he would react if she tried to take his hand now. She involuntarily grabs her courage and reaches out to him. But for him it is nothing, and fear suddenly stops her. In her imagination, she sees him turning away, grimacing with disgust. But despite everything, she longs to feel his warmth even if just for a moment, so she gently touches his hand, pressing with her pinky. She feels that he is warm and hears only one thing, how wildly her heart is beating. She puzzles over whether he would forgive her everything if he only understood what she is really doing. After the movie, Masato says it was really cool, and Kume nervously agrees though she barely watched anything. She finally understands. He didn't notice her attempts at all. Masato says that savoring genres he usually avoids is refreshing and asks her to tell him if there will ever be another equally good one. This makes her happy. She replies that of course they will watch all kinds of movies together and quietly hopes that someday she will be able to walk hand in hand with him. The next day in the university cafeteria, her face shines. Yesterday's date after the movie became a true happiness for her. It is then that Mizuho calls her and she thanks Mizuho for finding her a seat. She replies, everything is fine. Later, Kyum notices her dish and asks if there is too much weight there and Mizuho says, today is a very important day, so she is coming in fully prepared to win. When Kyum asks what she means, Mizuho boldly replies that she intends to win in love and shocks her with this. Kyum asks if she plans to confess today and Mizuho confirms. This time she really has a good chance. When Kyum asks if that is Kato from her club, Mizuno nods and says their gazes have crossed many times, so she is sure. When Kyumi asks if she is succeeding thanks to that very hint, Mitsuo asks her not to mock simply because she has finally taken up the idea. Kyumi smiles crookedly and says that she is supposedly not yet truly uplifted, while Mizuho sees through everything. Then Mizuho suggests, as soon as she really manages, they will go on a double date and Kyumi immediately understands that this is a deadly alarm bell. She decides to leave immediately, and when Kyumi asks if she is serious, Mizuho only replies, fate does not wait. When Kyumi leaves, Kuma breaks into anxiety. Will Mizuho be alright since ever since they studied in the upper grades, she has been pushed away so many times? She knows that Kato is friendly, but something about him has always been off, so she decides to double-check everything, just in case. Later, she goes out searching for those two, but finds no one in their class. Then she heads to the next place until she hears Kato's voice. She quietly peeks from behind the wall and hears him telling someone that from time to time, he only talks to freshmen because Satsuki ordered it. His interlocutor is Mizuho. Kato asks if she had to take his goodwill for something else. Mizuho apologizes but he sharply cuts her off, orders her never to waste his time again, forbids anyone to even talk about it, and brazenly pressing the words, asks if she knows her place. This throws Kyumi into rage. Inside, indignation boils. How could someone so disgusting and worthless allow himself to hurt Mizuho? While she trembles with anger, one thought cuts through her mind. She should have recorded the conversation to expose his true nature. But suddenly Mizuho interrupts and declares that Eve's inheritance is not a good thing. Despite everything she just went through, Mizuho tries to keep a cheerful face. She says that this is exactly what she was thinking at the time and still tries to tease the situation with a jab. Smiling, she tells Kyumi that sometimes things just don't go smoothly. When she orders Kumo to hold on to this double series of meetings for now, Kumo just nods and assures she will find someone incomparably better than this piece of shit. Mizuho immediately picks up the thought third period is about to start and urges her to move. Kami tries to say something else, but the words drown in the rush. Mitsuo goes outside to cool off and reminds Kyumi must not keep her boyfriend waiting. Kyumi notices that she is pretending. Mizuho is always so positive and quickly reads everything around, but Kyumi wants only one thing for Mizuho to truly be happy. When they part ways, Kyumi gets to the next class and sees Masato has already saved a seat for her. She thanks and he only nods, all is well. However, usually she pulls them out of trouble, so he is just repaying a debt. Seeing this simple kindness, Kyumi decides that Masato is almost an angel. As if all the kindness in the world gathered in him, and God probably forgot to give him any flaws. Compared to him, she considers Kato no more than a piece of trash. She is still boiling because of what he said to Mizuho, and in her soul, she cannot understand how someone like him could decide that he has the right to hurt her. Noticing her anger, Masato asks if something happened while she looks down a little depressed, and begins to explain everything in detail. Masato is also embarrassed by this while Kumo knows Mizuho is too kind to ever expose him. Although she wants to speak louder, everyone is deceived by his facade, so it is quite clear whom they will believe. This makes Kyumi feel completely helpless, and Masato agrees. They cannot forgive him, but he thinks that now the only thing they can do is he must end up happier than now and tell him that Mizuho found someone much better than a scoundrel like him. Hearing this, Kyumi calms her anger and agrees because she wants Mizuho to be happy. When Masato asks if Mizuho really means something to her, Kyumi answers without hesitation. She is her most important friend. Having gone through music, stories, and everything Mizuho experienced, she concluded, love is wonderful. And now she wants to fall in love herself to feel that radiant, sparkling sensation on her own skin. Lately, Mizuho increasingly catches herself thinking, what really is love and how is it different from simply liking someone? People explain love in 1,000 different ways, and she cannot recognize herself in any of them. She realized everyone more or less makes compromises, resigns, and endures to find someone good enough. So she decided that she would have to do the same. These days, even a single agreement to go on a date sounds like something to be gratefully bowed to. And if no one makes a move, chances probably won't remain anymore. She keeps them vulnerable exactly in the place where they were crushed by what happened to her. And she asks herself why she has to go through this again and again. Strangely, she is almost not angry. Somewhere inside she understands. She really never wanted to date that guy. She just needed a boyfriend, nothing more than that. She convinces herself that it is her fault, and tries to erase everything from memory, switching to thoughts about Kumi. She honestly admits to herself how much she is jealous of her, and even thinks about visiting just to quarrel Kumi and her boyfriend. With that mood, she set out to find herself a new boyfriend, but Kato's words echo again and again in her head. When her joyful voice suddenly breaks and does not come out, she does not understand why, and leaning against the wall slowly slides down. Unable to bear it, she lets everything out and begins to cry. Later, on the way back home, her face looks absolutely terrible. As if during a train trip she was hit by seasickness, and suddenly it seems to her a funny nonsense. She wonders, has she always been like this week? And then catches herself thinking that she looks pathetic. She unties her hair and decides, maybe nearby in a store they sell medicine for seasickness. Even if her head is in complete chaos, she tells herself, everything is fine because no one is looking at her. Then she begins to question herself what she is doing so painfully, just because she was rejected. While trying to cheer herself up, she again returns in her thoughts to that scene, and tears stream down her eyes like a river. It annoys her, she has already cried so much before. Wiping her eyes, she bumps into someone. She loses her balance and falls while he, cursing, yells at her. Although she is in pain, she squints and notices. Her vision has blurred, which means the contact lenses have simply fallen out. When without them she can barely distinguish her surroundings, the girl frantically searches, endlessly apologizing to everyone who passes by. People pass her without stopping. Some giggle and look condescendingly while she continues to tremble and apologize incessantly. She crawls on the ground helpless, miserable, like a living reflection of what is currently in her soul. This becomes unbearable for her and she disappears. As soon as another wave of tears approaches, she thinks this is the worst day of her life, and then someone behind asks if she is okay. It is Masato in work uniform, only with a different hairstyle. As soon as he finds out she lost a contact lens, he also crouches nearby to help her find it. She thanks him, tries to see who he is, but cannot see clearly. She feels as if a hero has come to the rescue, so she immediately covers her face, not wanting him to see her in such a disgusting state. She is stunned. Who could possibly help such a miserable girl? And from the excitement, she becomes so confused that she only hears her own heartbeat. She finds it strange. Just a moment ago, the world seemed unbearable. And now it seems to her as if only the two of them remain in the whole world. While they are looking for the contact lens, someone silently watches everything from afar. In a moment, Masato finally finds the lens and hands it to her, wrapped in a handkerchief, warning, be careful. She thanks him and he seems very polite and delicate to her. But for some reason, she has the feeling as if he gave her a piece of jewelry. Masato asks if there is another lens and starts searching again, but she cuts him off directly. No. She explains that only one fell out and this confuses him. Then she comes to the thought, if it were only one side she could handle it herself, but she got too scared and in the end caused problems. Masato smiles and asks if everything is okay and immediately adds, if so that's great. Then he wonders if she is really alright and offers to take her somewhere with a mirror, but she objects, saying everything is fine. She says she can no longer bother him and still finds kindness in him even despite her own foolishness. And then she notices, her heart is pounding wildly, but she cannot understand why exactly. Masato calms her and tells her not to worry about having to return the hand. She tightly clutches the handkerchief and says goodbye, trying to stop him. But her voice does not obey her, she cannot pull it out, period. When he walks away, she recalls a detail that impresses her. He shines like light, but she herself now looks like a complete mess. She curls up in a ball on the spot and again calls herself foolish for not even asking his name. Her heart still pounds wildly, as before. She remembers how Masato looked as if he was glowing and catches herself thinking, is this exactly what she feels now? She should bring the handkerchief closer to her face, her cheeks flare bright red. And just then her gaze catches the handle lying on the ground, probably Masato left it here. In a few minutes, Masato approaches the Festa bar and apologizes for being late. Colleagues greet him with surprised questions. Why is he here since on weekdays he usually works? And slightly changing his tone, he replies that he heard there aren't enough people, so he came to help. They comment on his hairstyle, saying that it was done by colleague Yusuke. And then Masato suddenly hugs him from behind without warning. Yusuke is answered by someone senior to him who helped him a lot when he just started working there. Another colleague notices scratches on Yusuke's arm and asks if he got injured. Yusuke explains that it's from his girlfriend, although it glints. Ashi, Masato thinks, has an attitude closest to how everything was in his previous world, and he appreciates that Yusuke does not behave condescendingly towards women. When Masato reminds him that he is busy, Yusuke gets to work immediately, returns to the work rhythm, and orders everyone else to do the same. Later, while Masato is cleaning, he wonders if everything is okay with that girl from earlier. He had to run somewhere and leave her in a hurry. He also asks himself if she cried because of the lost contact lens and if nothing serious really happened. Having finished cleaning, he was already about to fill out the checklist but suddenly notices the pen is missing. Having no idea where it could have gone, Yusuke calls him and says to switch, saying he has a request from a regular customer. Noticing that it is Sarah, Masato thinks with surprise how rarely she comes in on a day that is not like her workday, and wonders if she would have asked someone else if he were not here. Not even having time to fix his hair, he has no idea what Sarah will say or if she will speak sharply. He immediately heads to her table and calls her, but something feels different. When she looks back, today there seems to be a bit more gloominess in her. Masato shudders at the thought that something bad might have happened at work and decides to cheer her up. He finds it strange that she came today since she once said she only comes on Fridays. Despite this, she says she saw him outside near the store and he replies, he was just running an errand. When she stares at him, he decides that she is examining his hair and explains, this hair was done by his colleague, adding that he knows it doesn't look right. When she is silent, Masato tells her, even if he does not know exactly what happened, she can lay out everything on her mind here. And he adds, as always, that he truly likes listening to how she speaks. Hearing this, she trembles and breaks into apologies again, and aganas if she had seen everything with her own eyes. It turns out it was the same person who was watching Masato and Mizuga from afar. And for her, this scene looks exactly like from a novella's, if a prince and princess are meeting for the first time. This makes her wonder who she really is in this story. Just a minor heroine, hopelessly in love with the prince, or a character barely noticed by readers somewhere in between. She rejects this realization, does not accept it. She feels that everything should have been different. She is with Masato, not that girl. Most convincing of all is her disheveled appearance. Face and hair a complete chaos, clothes dirty, so she stubbornly convinces herself that she still has a chance. As soon as her thoughts become clear, she is overwhelmed with disgust for herself, and she begins to see herself as nothing more than a background, envying the heroine and standing exactly where she thinks she belongs. Inside herself, she apologizes to Masato for having followed him. She understands this is a crime. She would like to erase the data, but she cannot let go and still wants to ask who that girl is and what he did with her. But she knows she has no right. Meanwhile, while she squeezes her head and drowns in these thoughts, Masato says he is sure. She is not to blame because she is truly a good person. Hearing this, she immediately breaks into sobs and continues to apologize aloud and to herself for having followed him to find out what happened, and for feeling such envy. She also apologizes in her soul for not responding to him earlier. If he had hated her, she would not have endured it. She leans down and hugs Masato so suddenly that he gets confused and even blushes from embarrassment. Trying to help her, he hugs her, gently strokes her back with his palm and whispers that everything is okay. He knows what a good person she is. She convinces herself the worst in this situation is herself because she did not see it earlier. And she comes to the conclusion Masato is to blame for everything. After all, he made her fall in love. He also drove her to lose control. Now only her determination remains to take him for herself and destroy him completely. So she prepares an apology in advance because she is sure she will never let him go. Meanwhile, at home in Mizuho, she tells herself that the pen belongs to the boy who helped her and wonders. For some reason it feels painfully familiar. Noticing the branding on it, she immediately understands it is from her university. And also she asks herself if they go there too. And if so, she giggles and hides her face in the pillow. Her heart pounds wildly, as if everything around is flashing, flickering, and the world suddenly becomes sharp to tears, a feeling absolutely new to her. She wants to see him again. With this thought, she believes in a simple thing. The threads of her fate have finally started to move. A few days after Mizuho was harshly rejected, she tells Kumi about a boy who helped her when she dropped a contact lens, confidently believing that this meeting was predestined. She joyfully exclaims that her surprise truly exists, and Kumi turns away, trying to push back all the anxieties she had before. Just after she was rejected, Mizuho was so deeply affected that it was painful to look at her. And that very day, someone helped her when she dropped a contact lens. Since then, she repeatedly starts conversations about how that he is her destined one. Even though Kumi had to hear the same story countless times and was already exhausted, she still sighs with relief. Mizuho has returned to her usual self. Then Kumi asks if this is the first time in her life that Mizuho has truly fallen in love with someone. Mizuho confirms and says, since childhood she believed she had experienced many crushes, but now she is sure this is the very failing true love. When she says this in a soft voice, her cheeks blush something completely out of her style and Kyumi is shocked by this. But suddenly Mizuho just laughs and waves it off, saying she was joking. Putting that aside, Mizuho extends her hand and asks Kyumi to help her find that boy. Only upon closer inspection does Kyumi. Kyumi notices. The pen is the same one given to freshmen, and she nods at this, implying that there are probably plenty of such boys at this university. She asks if Mizuho at least remembers his face, to which Mizuho just clicks her tongue. With a firm expression, she cuts in. Giving up is when the game is truly over, so Kyumi is left to wonder why she suddenly started being scolded. Mizuho adds that she will recognize him if she sees him again because she remembers. At that time he had slicked back hair, a rather rare hairstyle. Still, she confidently says she will return his handkerchief and say, she is the crane he once saved, and now she has come to repay his kindness. Hearing this, Kyumi notes that Mizuho is basically living a fairy tale. As soon as Kyumi receives the notification, she opens it, a message from Masato. He asks her to join him for the third period. Just as Kuma finishes reading and briefly stops her gaze, Kami catches a quick glance at Mizuho, who is madly in love. Kuma has kept friends at a distance all her life. She didn't want them to fall into the trap of feelings for Masato, but now, seeing how Mizuho behaves, she confidently believes. She no longer needs to worry about this. What torments her the most is something else. The fact that Masato had no friends besides her always made her feel guilty. And she knows, partly, it really is her fault. Summoning courage, Kuma asks Mizuho if she would be okay going to the next lecture with her to see Masato. Surprised, Mizuho clarifies if everything is really okay and emphasizes that Kuma still hasn't even let her meet him. Kuma replies, since Mizuho has already found her destined one, there is nothing to worry about. Otherwise, she would have instantly fallen in love after talking to Masato, even if it lasted only 30 seconds. Kuma was impressed by his straightforward honesty. Mizuho says that love can really break a person, and Kuma asks if she is joking about her. Slightly laughing, Mizuho admits she always wanted to talk to Kuma's boyfriend. But Kuma quickly clarifies Masato is not yet her boyfriend. She warns, don't say strange things when they meet, and Mizuho assures her there is no need to worry. Still, Kuma advises Mizuho not to waste time, to stop hesitating and finally confess. But Kuma immediately cuts her off. Meanwhile, Masato receives a message from Kuma. She accepts his request and asks if she can bring a friend with her. He replies, of course she can. Realizing that Kami is going to introduce him to one of her friends, he is happy. He wants to expand his circle. And it feels like a weight has been lifted from his heart. He secretly feared that because of him, Kami would forget her own friendships, but that did not happen. Later, when Masato enters the classroom, Kuma calls him. He greets her good morning and notices the girl sitting next to her. Kyumi introduces her as her best friend Tanasaki Mizuho. Masato freezes. Mizuho turns out to be completely different, cute in her own way, not at all like Kyumi. For a moment he thinks, maybe in this world there are only beautiful girls everywhere. Then Kuma turns to Mizuho and introduces Masato to her as his friend. Masato greets her and says he has already heard a lot about her from Kyumi. For some reason, Mizuho does not respond, and an awkward silence hangs in the room. Masato even panics in his thoughts. He looks for whether he said something unnecessary, whether it sounded too familiar, or whether it sounded creepy. Kyumi notices this and calls Mizuho's name, and she suddenly comes to her senses. She quickly apologizes, tells Masato that she also heard a lot about him from Kyumi, so his tension eases a bit. Mizuho then approaches Masato closely and casually remarks that he is quite handsome, and Kyumi immediately orders her to stop. Kyumi scolds her and reminds her what she said earlier, and Masato, observing their interaction, notices Mizuho is quite lively. Finally, Mizuho properly introduces herself. She shakes Masato's hand, makes a short bow, and politely greets him. When Masato squeezes her palm, he notices how small it is. Kazu is also small, but Mizuho is even smaller, and for a moment he is overwhelmed with anxiety. What if she might somehow break? Later, when the lesson ends, Mizuho comments on how unexpected the test was. Masato agrees, although he admits he managed to avoid trouble thanks to Kyumi lending him her notes. Meanwhile, while she rummages through her bag, Kyugi suddenly realizes she left something important in the classroom, so she tells the two of them to go ahead and she returns to get it. Masato replies that it's okay. He is not in a hurry, so he offers to wait and takes Kyugi's bag to hold it. Kyumi thanks and apologizes, and Masato returns to Mizuho and asks if she is okay to wait. Mizuho says it's nothing serious, and as soon as Kyumi leaves, the two of them decide to sit on the nearest bench and wait. Mizuho almost casually says that Masato is very kind. Hearing this, he looks at her and asks if it is not normal to wait for someone. Mizuho shakes her head and replies, it's not just that she sees his kindness, it is deeply rooted in his heart. Then she stands up and tells Masato that she needs to tell him something, tightly gripping the edge of her kappas if gathering courage within herself. And she cheerfully says she needs his help to find her destined partner. She honestly admits that she cannot go into details but adds, her fate is a freshman at the university and she hoped Masato could help her find him. Masato nervously agrees and asks the boy's name. He can only be shocked when Mizuho directly answers, she doesn't know. He clarifies if she at least knows the department or any identifying features. But Mizuho admits she is not even completely sure that it is really a freshman and she does not know his department. She remembers one thing, he had slicked back, smooth sideburns and his height was about like Masato's. Hearing this, Masato freezes in thought. Back when Mizuho first met him, she felt as if she had heard his voice before. But as soon as she realizes where that thought is heading, she immediately stops herself. Masato is Kyum's crush. She must not even allow herself such thoughts. Instead, she asks if he can use his connections and tell her if he finds someone matching her description. When he doesn't respond immediately, Mizuho thinks that maybe she asked for too much. But eventually Masato admits he wants to help, he just has almost no friends. Mizuho truly freezes in surprise and tries to understand whether he said that because he started university later. Despite this, he promises that if he suddenly comes across someone matching her description, he will definitely inform her. She is overwhelmed with joy, thanks him, and for a moment fears that she might have caused him pain. It is then that Kyumi returns, and Mizuho immediately informs her that Masato agreed to help find her fate even if he admits. He is not sure because he knows few people. Yet despite this, she stubbornly does not back down. It is clear that she really likes it. Mizuho finds Masato exactly as Kuma described. Kind, funny and truly a good person. She even catches herself wondering if the three of them will continue to spend time together like this. The feeling is as if from this moment her life will become even more interesting. Then Kyumi parts ways with them. As soon as her train arrives, she waves goodbye and departs. As soon as Masato and Mizuho start walking, Mizuho notices. They are heading down the same street. This makes her feel a bit guilty toward Kami. And it is then that she decides the time is right, so she starts a conversation about their relationship. Masato tries to calm her down. There is nothing suspicious between them, they are just friends. Mizuho cannot accept this because they are always together. He explains, Kyum was incredibly kind to him precisely when it was most needed. That is why he does not want to betray her kindness. Mizuho freezes, not believing that he is really saying this, but still breathes out with relief. She feels that he is sincere. He still does not notice that Kyum cares about him, so she jokingly calls him a ladies' man while silently wishing Kyum good luck. Suddenly her eyes widen, she recognizes someone familiar. Without wasting a second, she hides behind Masato so as not to be noticed. It turns out this is Kata, the same guy who rejected her. And judging by how he is talking to the girl next to him, he has already told her about the confession. He tells Satsuki, since she asked him to contact freshmen more often, it was because of this that Mizuho, the girl with the delusion, finally confessed to him. Mizuho is so ashamed that she feels like she might die. Her body trembles, and she quietly suggests to Masato to get out of here. When Kato notices this, he moves closer and begins to mock her, throwing a hideous burden in her face and insisting that she won't survive without clinging to men. She is overwhelmed by humiliation and rejection to the point of trembling. Her voice cannot break free because she fears above all that Masato will see her like this and be disappointed. Tears fill her eyes as she desperately tries not to cry and not to look as pathetic as before. Masato steps forward and says that he doesn't know the whole situation, but what he does know for sure is that Kato must take back what he said. When Kato asks who he is, Masato introduces himself. He is a friend of Mizuho. Kato smiles crookedly as if to say she knew that no one would ever go on a date with someone as hideous as her. In response, Masato shoots back sharply and loudly, Mitsugo is not hideous, she is beautiful. These words completely confuse her like. While Kato is stunned, Masato continues and says, calling her hideous is simply wrong because she is clearly sweet both in character and appearance. Kato snorts and claims that just a few days ago Mizuho confessed to him, and because of that, he thinks he is better than her. Masato immediately grabs onto these words and asks how the one who was confessed to can be above the one who confessed. Kato tries to justify herself, but Masato cuts her off sharply. He hates such an attitude toward a person who showed true feelings. While they argue, Mizuho asks Masato to stop. It feels like he has no reason to be angry at someone like her. But for some reason, she cannot speak, her face burns so much that it is unbearable. Kato mocks and asks if Masato would really date someone as hideous as her. Masato immediately retorts, he would never compare Mizuho to someone like Kato, someone who uses others to confirm their own worth. Annoyed, Kato declares that that's it and tells Satsuki that they are leaving. As they walk away, Mizuho peeks out from behind Masato. Masato looks scared and immediately apologizes, as if he made it even harder for her and he himself understands this only sooner or later. Mitsugo says she doesn't care, that it has always been hard for her anyway, but she gets worse because she dragged him into all this. Masato admits he couldn't hold back and intervened, and as an apology offers to buy her something to drink. In Mizugo's thoughts, she constantly orders him to stop. He is too kind, and she has already chosen the one she decided to be with. And most importantly, Masato is Kumi's crush, and just the thought of this tightens her chest with guilt because Kumi can't even confess her feelings out loud. She forces herself to laugh joyfully and thanks him, explaining she confessed and got rejected. And if she had known what Kato was like, she would never have dared to confess. Masato looks her straight in the face through a forced smile and says she doesn't need to pretend when she is in pain. He adds, no one leaves without any consequences after such words. Mizuho noticeably gets confused, and Masato orders her to wait while he goes to buy a drink. As soon as he disappears, Mizuho sits by the wall and wonders if she was ever so easy to sway before. It hurts her a lot. She knows this feeling very well but decides to hold it back. She already has the one she considers her destined, and Masato belongs to Kami. But every time a second passes, it becomes harder to endure, and then she quietly apologizes to Kumi. When Mizuho realizes that the warmth in her chest is love, her own affection becomes more painful than she could ever imagine. The next day, Friday, exactly the day Yuka had been waiting for the most recently. While she was picking up the balls, she hoped today she would be lucky again to play with Masato. When Yuka remembers how everything turned out then, one of her friends can't stand it and shouts in despair. Why should the burden fall only on the first-year students? She means picking up the balls and Yuka doesn't mind. After class, she can see Masato. Noticing her delighted smile, the friend asks where Yuka goes every Friday and Yuka gets flustered, not knowing what to answer. As soon as she sees her reaction, the friend instantly understands everything and sarcastically asks if it's a boyfriend. Yuka quickly tries to deny it, but only makes her friend more confident, and she immediately asks if Yuka has a boyfriend. Yuka denies it. There is no such relationship between her and Masato, he just teaches her basketball. The very thought that he might be her boyfriend makes Yuka blush and smile from ear to ear. This finally confirms the friend's suspicion and they decide to watch her today, although Yuka insists strongly that they don't. She fears that if they see Masato, they will keep coming, and since he is so kind eventually, he might teach them too. She categorically does not want that to happen. This time it should be just for the two of them. Suddenly the seniors approach and one of them asks if they are having fun. This is Yuka's mentor assigned to her, but Yuka doesn't like her, she is too scary. Then the senior asks Yuka if she has a boyfriend. You can quickly clarify that this is a misunderstanding, to which the senior replies contemptuously, saying that probably her boyfriend is ugly. As soon as she utters this, the older boy appears, and she immediately grabs his hand. They say that older student is named Meru, and he has a nasty temper, so Yuka's friend asks if she is okay. Yuka can endure mockery, but she absolutely cannot forgive that Meru called Masato names. Later she comes home, quickly changes into her basketball uniform, and happily runs to Masato even if something happens. Just seeing him makes everything go away. As soon as she steps outside, she notices the towel Masato gave her, and remembers that she needs to return it. Holding it in her hand, she thinks that there is still a little of his scent left on it, and brings it closer to her face to smell it. As soon as she does this, her whole body shudders and a quiet moan escapes her lips. She immediately understands this is not allowed. Even if the item is washed, she still feels his scent on it. But she stubbornly looks for an excuse, saying that no one has the right to blame her because she washed it. Just as she reaches for a second sniff, suddenly her mother appears behind her, asks what she is doing, and sharply startles her. Embarrassed, she asks her mother not to burst in like that, and her mother only reminds her. It was Yuka who asked her to make a water bottle. Yuka is still a little irritated. She grabs the water bottle and quickly leaves while her mother is still pretending to check if she has looked at the weather forecast today. A moment later, she is already on the basketball court, and Masato, of course, is here. As soon as he notices her, she sharply declares that today she will finally take this place from him, with the look as if she herself is judging how cool he is today. When he puts her back on her feet again, she notices he calls her Yuka-chan, and immediately her mood improves. She likes it when he calls her without any honorific titles. She makes up an excuse and tells him, since they are rivals, he doesn't need to hold back. Let him boldly call her simply Yuka. At the end of the sentence, she adds a quiet please, already realizing that it sounded too dramatic. But Masato suddenly bursts out laughing and replies that he agrees with her. Then he calls her Yuka, and with a teasing tone in his voice, declares that today he will take that place again, which makes her jump with joy. She suggests starting right away, but Masato reminds her about what happened last week and cuts off. He will not participate if she does not do the warm-up properly. Yuka agrees and finds him cute even when he behaves cheekily. And then, warmed up, they move on to basketball. When Yuka finally snatches the ball from Masato and passes by him, she immediately throws it into the hoop, and the ball falls exactly into the target. She is glowing with success, and Masato, impressed by how much she has grown, says that at this pace she might really take that place from him. His praise makes her even happier, and she promises to take back her words. As soon as she suggests moving to the fence, suddenly it starts pouring rain wildly. They quickly run under the canopy near the seating area to take shelter. Masato then asks Yuka if she has a towel. She answers that she does, and her eyes suddenly widen in shock. She sees through Masato's wet t-shirt and immediately understands. This place is too exciting. Looking at how the downpour pours relentlessly, Masato realizes they can't continue the game like this. But when Yukika doesn't respond, he calls her. Yuka is too confused to answer. Her breathing falters and she covers half her face with a towel. She is already starting to worry what if Masato finds out she is looking at him with impure thoughts. Then he will be disgusted and keep his distance from her. She cannot allow that, she is convinced. From just the embarrassment alone, she will seriously die. Gathering her strength, she decides to look away and not give in to temptation, but at that very moment, he apologizes and puts his hand on her neck, checking if she has a fever and asks if she is okay. Yet she still cannot answer. Her thoughts are only about how close he is, all wet, and how damn attractive he is. He assumes she might be feeling unwell, so he wraps her in his shirt. He apologizes, saying this is all he has and it's better than nothing. He asks her to wait until the rain subsides. While they wait, Yuka's heart cannot calm down. Masato is in wet clothes and her body is wrapped in his shirt. His presence seems to color her entire body from the inside. Masato asks her to turn away for just a moment, and she obediently does so immediately, without any questions. And then she hears water splashing on the ground. This sound suddenly completes a puzzle in her head, and suggests the reason why he asked her to turn around. The suspicion is confirmed as soon as Masato aloud thinks that he brought a spare shirt. It turns out he pulled off his t-shirt. Seeing this, she freezes in thought. If she suddenly turns now, will Masato see her half naked? While she is still arguing with herself and trying to convince herself not to panic, she slowly turns and notices Masato's back. As soon as she catches this angle, her composure flies away, and she moves toward him, trying to figure out if she is really capable of going that far. She freezes right behind him and her thoughts wildly jump. Who will blame her if she hugs him from behind and presses cheek to cheek? After all, no one is watching. As soon as she gathers the courage to act, Masatoho just took out a spare shirt, hears a dull clink. When he turns around, he is struck by shock. Yuka has already fallen, her face bright red, and blood is flowing from her nose. As Yuka's consciousness begins to fade, she thinks to her mother. It turns out Yuka really was timid. The next day, Yuka's friends congratulate her, saying she made the starting lineup for the official match, and she sincerely thanks them. Although she is happy, she understands well. She needs to achieve real results, especially for those who didn't even get to be on the bench. As soon as they leave, Miro, who is older than Yuka, arrives with her friends and claims that the floor was cleaned improperly, so she orders them to redo everything again. She asks if they will be held responsible if someone from the volleyball team, who is supposed to use the gym that afternoon, suddenly gets injured. Although everything has already been cleaned properly, she orders it to be redone once more. Yuka immediately understands. This is bullying. He decides to endure it after all and passes by Miro, when suddenly Miro sharply calls her by name. Mari places her foot close to the wall behind Yuka's back threateningly and says that she should not let her victory go to her head. She adds that Yuka was taken only because she is liked by the coach and warns, do not draw the wrong conclusions. Yuka quietly agrees. Yuka cannot understand why Miro is so obsessed with the idea of destroying her, although at first Yuka was not a bench player at all. She gives a barely noticeable bow, trying to apologize, and when she succeeds, irritation is clearly burning on Miro's face. Yuka catches herself thinking, could it be that she is so angry because a younger student is standing in line? If only she trained, she would definitely beat them, but Miro and all the others do not even train at first. So Yuka decides, such clubs are incredibly difficult. In a moment she arrives at the basketball court and sees emptiness and immediately remembers, today is Sunday. Therefore Masato is not here. The unpleasant feeling that has been sticking since that very moment with Miro does not go away, so Yuka decides to practice a little before going home. As soon as she starts playing, she is overwhelmed by the thought how much she has improved during training with Masato, and she is firmly convinced it is thanks to him that she was put in the lineup. Feeling this in her head, she decides to repeat Masato's movements. She likes him so much that she can imagine him again and again before her eyes. She starts by imitating, makes a smooth run, and then suddenly bursts forward, full of drive. After a spin with a flick, she throws the ball into the hoop, but it only hits the rim and slips away. Yuka just can't land that last shot fade away. Perfectly planned, but the ball stubbornly refuses to obey. This difficulty only convinces her how incredible Masato is. With this thought, she decides to end training for today. And just when she is about to leave, Mero and other upperclassmen enter the basketball hall. Miro and her friends say they haven't finished training yet, and pretending to have just noticed Yuka, they show surprise. Their appearance right now confuses Yuka. She doesn't understand why they are here, but from their manner, she is sure they came after her. As soon as she politely greets them, they start brazenly, mockingly praising her. Miro says that maybe if they train here, they will get the same result, and this annoys Yuka, although she tries hard to calm down. Yuka decides to leave and give the court to them, but just as she is about to step away, Miro grabs her hand and stops her. Miro says that Yuka is acting too reserved, and with a creepy smile suggests they train together. Yuka can't refuse this. In a moment, while they continue training, Yuka asks Miro Max if she is already tired, and if she thinks she can handle the official match. Yuka is extremely exhausted, breathing hoarsely and barely holding on, trying to figure out how much time has passed. She has completely lost count. After that, the upperclassmen train one by one, and she alone pushes on without any pause. Then Miro asks Yuka if she wants to play 2-on-2, and adds that they also need to try the patch-style game. But Yuka is so exhausted that she can't even respond properly. She only wants to drink water. And even though she confirmed nothing, they immediately start the match anyway. It's 2 against 2, but her partner doesn't move, and she immediately realizes their real goal was never to train with her. She doesn't even stop playing, but suddenly her legs stop obeying. Usually it wouldn't be difficult for her to get past 2 players, but now she is too exhausted. Mero notices this and without wasting time asks if that's all she has. Then she says, if so, she just needs to step out of the line. Then she tells Yuka to think about what Ayako is feeling now because she can no longer play. As soon as those words are spoken, Yuka notices a boy at the edge of the basketball court, exactly where Ayako's boy is standing. After the lineup announcement, Ayako, whom Yuka replaced, came up to congratulate her and said, let her give it her all even if now this is her place. This mention is one of the reasons why Yuka decided to work so hard. Just as Maru is already too exhausted to move, she deliberately hits Yuka with her shoulder and Yuka stumbles and falls. Pain explodes in her body, taking her breath away. She can't help but wonder why she has to go through all this, even though she simply loves basketball. Though she is in terrible condition, Maru coldly orders her to get up, says the game is not over yet, and asks if she doesn't know the rules. Yuka can't get up, she has no strength left, and she doesn't want to lose either, especially to people like them. Just as Yuka is about to burst into tears, a sarcastic voice suddenly cuts into the conversation and throws. Apparently, everyone is having a great time. This voice is Masato. His sudden appearance shocks her. That morning, on his day off, he was dozing at home when he suddenly received a message from Kumi about her baseball club, followed by messages from Sarah and Yuka. He found it incredible that Yuka was already at practice so early, and in general, lately he caught himself with a strange desire to keep her in sight and protect her. So the thought spun in his head. Maybe this is how it feels when you have a younger sister. At that very moment he realized, if she trains at such a speed, she will soon surpass him, and he decided to train too. When he came to the court and saw her among several others, at first he thought she was practicing moves with friends. Something about how they acted seemed off. He hesitated, allowing for the possibility that it might be a misunderstanding, but he quickly understood hesitation was a mistake. Returning to the present, Meru shuts down excuses and demands to answer who he is, and points out that they are right now in the middle of club practice. And Masato coldly shoots back and asks if this is what club activities look like nowadays, piling the whole pack on one person until she faints and then laughing. Yuka is stunned. This is the first time she sees him angry. Masato turns to her, takes a water bottle from his backpack and hands it to her, apologizing for being late, and, despite the fatigue and pain, her body still shudders with relief and joy that he appeared. After this, he asks Meru and the others what they wanted to achieve by bullying Yuka. But Meru denies everything and insists that they were only checking if she was suitable for the starting lineup. Masato asks if they will retreat if Yuka proves her ability, and Meru lies that this was their plan from the very beginning and that everything happened only because Yuka was not good enough. This enrages Yuka because they resorted to everything only after they couldn't defeat her fairly. Masato asks Yuka if she can move after a short rest. She looks confused, but he gently strokes her head and says that the two of them must show everyone how strong she really is. She agrees without hesitation, and Masato suggests, if Yuka defeats them all, the matter will be closed. The idea that he and Yuka would unite against the four of them, Meru initially mocks as complete nonsense. But Masato calmly points out the obvious height difference between him and all the others. He pushes Meru to click to admit that she underestimates them. And after that, he sets a condition: if they win, Meru must recognize Yuka as a legitimate starter without any further complaints. And Meru agrees, retorting, if Yuka loses, she must step down from the starting lineup, but Yuka does not want to leave her position. Down she believes in Masato and agrees, fully determined not to lose. The start of the match, Yuka and Masato stand on the fence, and everything happens exactly as she expected. The two strongest players immediately rushed forward to block Masato. But they cannot compare with him. He easily slipped away from among them and none can catch up. He bursts from the spot and shouts to Miro, so that they do not allow some random guy to break through so easily. Yuka watches him in delight, feeling again. Masato is a completely different level and he barely nods to her. And having read the signal, she swiftly moves into the needed position. When Miro tries to stop him, he passes the ball to Yuka. And she shoots without any hesitation. The ball rings clearly through the hoop and gives them the first 2 points of the game, driving Miro mad. Although Yuka knows she shouldn't enjoy it so much while she is still tired, she still can't hold back. A wave of elation washes over her. With fresh determination, she and Masato break forward to score again, while Miro tries more and more desperately to stop them. After time spent with Masato, Yuka knows, if it were only him, scoring from such a distance would be nothing. Yet he decided to pass the ball to her. But she refuses to rely on him to carry her and is determined to prove that all the effort she put in up to this moment was not in vain. As soon as this thought flashes in her mind, she presses the pedal and scores again, stunning Miro. Furious, Meru yells at the guy Yako Shaosuk, demanding him to move properly, and asks if he doesn't care that Yako might never regain a spot in the starting lineup. She orders him to forget about Masato and focus on Yuka, who is the one taking the throws. Masato praises Yuka, he says it was a great throw, and she quickly retorts his pass was just as accurate. Then he tells her that he believes she will break through everyone even without him, and orders her next time to take the ball and try to push through them herself, while he positions himself to be ready to receive a pass if needed. Yuka instantly and willingly agrees. The simple fact is Masato trusts her, and this very fact gives her the strength to try 1,000 times harder. As planned, she is already about to break through the three girls, but Meru suddenly stops her with a deafening scream and demands, "Who is Masato?" to her. Blushing, Yuka replies with a gentle smile that he is something very dear to her. The answer clearly irritates the mayor. She clicks her tongue angrily. Since Masato is the only person she values most, Yuka becomes even more determined to meet his expectations. She dashed to the hoop, and although one girl moves aside to stop her, Yuka slipped past the security, sliding between the legs, making a quick dribble and crossover. The other girl also tries to stop her, but she passes by her just as easily. Just as Meru is about to shoot, she suddenly steps right in front of her. Yuka instantly realizes the position is terrible, and at this pace the shot will almost certainly be blocked. But she remembers how Masato acts in similar situations, and copying his move, releases the ball towards the hoop. She passes cleanly. Even Masato himself is surprised, because he thinks he mastered this technique only in high school. After the match, Shaosuk and three girls start arguing, and it becomes clear he asked them to stop bullying Yuka. A little later, the three girls approach her and apologize, so Yuka remains confused. When she quietly asks Masato if he knows anything, he insists that he does not. But Yuka is sure he still said something to Shaosuk backstage for her own good. Masato praises her again, saying that her final shot was incredible. She thanks him with a radiant smile, realizing that shot succeeded only because she carefully watched him and learned. She bows low and thanks him even more sincerely for the help today. He waves it off, saying it's nothing, and at the same time apologizes for being late. Puzzled, she asks what he means, and he explains he arrived earlier, thought she was just training with the team, and did not intervene until he saw her being pushed and falling to the ground. He believes if he had noticed what was happening in time, she might not have been hurt. Hearing this, you almost break into tears from the sincerity of Masato's kindness. While he, confessing how happy he is to be able to play basketball with her, tells her, "You are truly talented, and very soon you will surpass me." She just shakes her head and replies that it's not about that at all. She is just lucky to have the chance to play basketball with him. While she says this, Masato suddenly notices something and asks her, "Wait a moment." He gently takes her hand and steps closer, and Yuka immediately panics. Her heart pounds wildly, and she wonders if he is about to kiss her. She feels that today's mood suddenly flows differently than usual, as if fate itself is leading this moment. She can't shake the thought. Maybe this really is the perfect opportunity. Hiding in her own thoughts, she calls her mother and father, gently closes her eyes and thinks. Today she gives her first time to someone special. Closing her eyes painfully, she waits for only one thing to understand that Masato has moved closer to finally put a bandage on her wound. He apologizes for not noticing earlier that she was hurt, and Yuka remains completely stunned. Overwhelmed with emotions, she suddenly wraps her arms around him, confusing him while he awkwardly asks what happened. Although it wasn't the kiss she dreamed of, she is still incredibly happy. He cares about her so much. Even if he thinks she is strange, this is exactly how, suddenly in his arms, she wants to pour out all her failures and defeats. Masato gently stroked her head and said that today she did wonderfully, and that she looked very cool. At his words, her face flares bright red, and she finally realizes without any doubt, she loves him. Since then, it seems to her as if no other faces exist around, only Masato is before her. Only him. As if to finally confirm her own heart, she squeezes him a little more in her embrace. Late that night, as soon as Masato changed clothes, he immediately lay down in bed. But as soon as he rolled into the futon, he realized, before sleeping, he needs to reply to a few messages he has already received. Checking his phone, he sees a post from Yuka. She thanks him for today. At the same time, Sarah also sent a thoughtful message, but Mizuho lately seems to have lost energy. And this makes him worry. Is she okay? To be honest, most of those he has gotten close to in this world since he came here are women. He also gets along with some older guys at work, but they don't keep constant contact with him. He barely has time to think about it when he sees a message from Kumi. She asks what his plans are for tomorrow. He replies that tomorrow he has tutoring, and this confuses her. Then Kumi clarifies if his student is a girl, but he doesn't notice. Having dealt with all the messages and replied to each one, he finally decides to fall asleep. Closing his eyes, he recalls. 2 months have already passed since he came into this world, and he is amazed at how complicated everything has turned out. Although Eika warned him about other women, except perhaps that persistent Flirth thinks nothing really became a problem. Yet all the women he got to know better turned out to be good people. So he is confident. From now on, he will finally be able to live a normal life. Meanwhile, Kume is still waiting for his answer whether his student is a girl or not. The godfather is very worried. If it is a boy, everything is fine, but if it is a girl, then a completely different story begins. Since she fell in love with Masato, she truly became happy, but along with that, new anxieties appeared. There are so many girls around him. Even worse is that Masato has no idea how attractive he is. There is also a second thought that gnaws at her. What exactly he does on Fridays will not tell her. But despite everything, she stubbornly decided not to back down, no matter who turned out to be her rival. At this very moment, as these thoughts surge again, the phone rings and a message arrives. She jerks herself out of bed, believing it is from Masato, however. But before even seeing the text, she raises the phone above her head and prays that there is a boy there, or at least a child, like an elementary school student. After praying, she is about to read the message. If there is a girl from high school, that will also be a problem. To her shock, it was really a message from Masato. He wrote that he is currently tutoring a second-year high school student. The next day, he wakes up and sees the money has been credited. He can't shake the feeling that it's too much for that part-time job. All thanks to Aka, he not only covers part of the living expenses but also gave him 2 part-time jobs. First, the boys' bar, so he never dared to tell Kumi when she asked. It's hard to explain somehow. Second, a private tutor every Saturday. Such a thing can be mentioned, so yesterday he told Kumi about it. As soon as he starts thinking about her, she calls, and it makes him wonder why Kumi calls so early in the morning. He picks up the phone. Hello. But the shutters come down as soon as she calls him with a cold voice. Without explaining anything else, she asks if he tutors the girl and if he will go to her house again today. Masato is completely confused. He doesn't understand why she sounds so emotionless and whether he did something wrong. After talking with her, Masato heads to his student's house, but on the way admits to himself. He has no idea what exactly triggers Kumi's switches. Although Kumi is usually sweet and chubby, sometimes when she flips her switch, she becomes scary. Because of this, Masato thinks that girls are too complicated to understand. Once he believed he could talk to them, but now he sees no. He wonders if the reason is that his childhood friend is a girl. Supposedly, he grew up so he could talk to them normally without any awkwardness. He even remembers that meeting when one girl confessed to him, but everything ended badly as soon as she decided that he was just kind to everyone. She apologized for the misunderstanding about his intentions and broke off the relationship. He admits, back then he couldn't handle everything properly, but for a person raised in an orphanage and taught that being kind to others is obvious, Her words hit right in the heart. He admits that he treated her the same way as other girls, and simply didn't want to play differently except maybe only with her. Kindness to others is so deeply ingrained in his mind that now, when he thinks about it, he finally understands. At this stage, he probably won't be able to change anything. While he was pondering all this, he finally reached his student's house and decided, it's time to change the style. Pressing the doorbell, he waits for someone to open. While glancing around the house, everything here is too luxurious. A woman opens the door, politely greets him, and immediately says that her daughter Saimia Shiori is in her room, then asks if she can leave her in his care. He easily agrees. A month has already passed since he started working as a tutor the one Eika found for him. He was tutoring the daughter of acquaintances. Knocking on the door, he introduces himself, Masato, and asks if he can come in. She nervously replies, yes, you may. Then she opens the door and lets him inside. This girl is Saimia Shiori, a second-year high school student. He greets her, and while she responds with a greeting, he notices that today she is not in school uniform. In a trembling voice, she says that it seemed strange to wear the uniform on a day off, so she didn't put it on. Hearing this, Masato replies that he had only seen her in uniform, so now this look really suits her and looks very fresh. The girl freezes at his words, then after a short pause smiles gratefully and adds that he looks cool too. Masato teases in response. Compliments won't make him give her less homework. When they sit down to study, Masato notices that she is too reserved, silently giving off the same proper vibe of a rich girl. Then he stops his gaze on a book on her desk and asks what she is reading today. Then Shiori lifts the book and says it is a novel by Mr. Takasaka. Masato immediately recognizes the addition and, unable to hold back, wonders, what kind of life must the writer have lived to write such a beginning? But Shiori doesn't say a word at first. This confuses him. After a short pause, she nervously nods and agrees. Her reaction seems a bit awkward to Masato, and he thinks the reason is that she realized he threw out too superficial a comment on the spot. This makes him believe that maybe, for a literary girl like her, his chatter already sounds a bit empty. With this thought, he begins to work with Shiori, and she secretly looks at him and thinks, today he is incredible again, and she still cannot believe that someone like him actually ended up in her room. She wondered if anyone like her even had the right to be near him, because she believed that her true self was simple and shapeless. This is exactly the impression people around her have of her, and to be honest, she doesn't particularly worry about it. But once she decided, dreaming at least once like others is normal. For example, wanting a boyfriend in high school at least once. But those hopes and illusions were quickly shattered. Her classmates were already taken by top girls, so everything left would never be available to someone as clumsy as her, and in her opinion, this is just reality. Because of this, it seems to her that she doesn't need a boyfriend at all. If he is even a little cool, he is immediately considered highly valuable. And if he lacks hygiene or is too fat, she involuntarily decides that he is unattractive, so it's better not to date anyone at all. The most important thing, she doesn't need them because she has this. Books for women, that's what they are called, and she honestly admits, she likes such fantastic novels where the heroes have beautiful hearts. The heroes are really cool and they have very specific reasons why the heroine falls in love. Moreover, in these stories she finds boys not just normal, but truly beautiful. When she reads, sometimes she can't believe that such a wonderful world even exists, and then she automatically looks around, as if checking her own surroundings. She sighs with disappointment. How those girls around act uncontrollably because of some ordinary boys, and because of this, it eventually seems to her that reality is just trash. A little later, when she returns home and is about to play games for the day, her mother stops her. Wait. Just as she freezes on the stairs, her mother asks if she already has friends or maybe a boyfriend. Shiori replies no and asks what exactly prompted the question so suddenly. Her mother says that she needs to feel romance while she is still in school, especially now when there are fewer boys. Shiori already agrees almost without listening. Her mother has given her this explanation more than once. Her mother immediately notices that Shiori is only half listening, but still dismisses it and asks if she has chosen the same college as before. Shiori confirms, yes. Then the mother says that some friend of hers knows a person who studies at that college, and the mother is going to ask her to tutor Shiori. This news takes her breath away. Shiori denies, saying she doesn't need anything like that, but her mother insists. Let her come at least once and meet them, because they will arrive this Saturday. Just as Shiori heads to her room, her mother suddenly becomes overly intrusive. She decides that she can study on her own. She has no friends, so she has plenty of time. Moreover, conversations with people are sheer torture, so Shiori plans to come up with an excuse and send the tutor back. Next Saturday, Shiori returns from school, lies down on the bed, and immerses herself in the book, pausing on the main character. He is incredibly strong and extraordinarily kind. But she immediately reminds herself, of course, he is perfect because he is imaginary. And Shiori sincerely believes that such a man simply cannot exist in real life. As soon as this thought flashes in her mind, her mother announces, "The tutor has already arrived." Shiori replies, "I'm coming." But she notices she is still in her school uniform, but she quickly brushes it off. It doesn't matter. She is going to send the tutor back anyway. As soon as she opens the door and is already thinking about how troublesome it will be tutoring sessions right after morning classes, Masato meets her. This is him. As soon as Shiori sees Masato, she feels as if seized by a cramp and her face flushes with a blush. Then her mother introduces Masato and says that this is the boy she asked to tutor Shiori and even jokingly teases, "Isn't he handsome?" Completely stunned, Shiori gasps for air and embarrassed exclaims "Wah," then gets lost. Masato confusedly repeats her words and then she sharply points a finger at both her mother and him towards the door, ordering them to wait outside for a moment. When the door closes, Shiori sinks to her knees from shame, confused, because no one warned her that her tutor was a boy. Her mother stands in the hallway and inquisitively asks what is wrong with her, and Shiori is sure her mother deliberately did not tell her. So inside she calls her mother an evil witch and even thinks she should tell her father, saying that her mother makes acquaintances near boys' bars. But enough, the main thing is different. Shiori notices that the room is a mess. Clothes are scattered everywhere and her game is still left uncleaned. Even worse, her shelf is stuffed with books she cannot let him see because they are explicit erotic novels. She has no right to that, so she decides to cover them with a sheet. This is where I stop this video. When everything is arranged, she takes a mirror and quickly tidies herself up, but in her thoughts she still hesitates. Maybe that boy is actually not bad. When she finally settles everything, she opens the door and apologizes for making him wait. As soon as he enters the room, she apologizes again and says that probably his message before he came did not get through. She denies it, everything is fine, and assures the real fault is indeed her mother. While he thanks her for showing the place, she instantly becomes wildly embarrassed and lost. She does not understand what to do because a hot boy just appeared in her room. She forces herself to exhale and calm down, repeating, "In real life such a miracle simply cannot happen. There is no and does not exist anyway." From this thought, another suddenly slips through. Maybe in return he has a terrible character or something similar. Masato then suggests, "Today just talk and then she will decide whether she wants to hire him as a tutor," and she agrees. But she is annoyed that her voice comes out too quiet, and while all this overwhelms her like a wave, she cannot speak as she is used to. Masato explains, since everything happened so suddenly, she probably feels uncomfortable telling him her decision right away, so he advises her to just tell her mother everything later. His behavior confuses her. Not only is he handsome, but also too kind. She expected him to say something like, "You should be grateful," or something similar, but he is silent. And despite this, she orders herself not to fall into the trap, wondering if he is just being polite to get the job. Masato asks Shiori why she needs their university. She replies that it really has great facilities and a large library. Hearing this, Masato smiles and excitedly asks if she likes books. Confused, she mentally orders him to stop flashing that dazzling smile while he asks what books she likes. She is completely confused by this question because she never even thought that far and obviously cannot tell him that she likes kitschy stories about heroes and heroines. She is sure he will find it creepy. Choosing a safe answer, she says she likes literary prose, and Masato comments, "It's impressive, especially considering that he himself can't bring himself to read such dry, bookish writing." He adds that he once tried a few pulp titles but quickly realized it's not for him. Hearing such a frank answer, she internally apologizes because she herself does not read that kind of literature. Putting that aside, she understands things are going worse because he does not make any mistakes, and she cannot believe that such a perfect person can exist at all. So she concludes, if a simple potato girl like her says something rude, he will definitely show his true face. With this thought, Shiori tells Masato that he can calmly refuse her because he probably wouldn't want to teach such a simple girl like her, and would likely prefer to take on someone more attractive, especially considering that he most likely already has plenty of other offers. Even Shiori herself admits, right now she is petty and unpleasant, but considering that everyone hates women who demand too much attention, she hopes that with this comment she will finally make him show his true nature. Masato replies that it doesn't matter because if she tries to get into his university, he will do everything he can, regardless of what kind of girl she is. After this, he also adds that he actually considers her an incredibly wonderful person, and then says, When he saw her for the first time earlier, it seemed to him that she was incredibly beautiful. Stunned by his response, Shiori begins to believe. Maybe the hero from the story somehow crossed dimensions just to meet her. Late that night, Shiori is trembling with joy. Now Masato comes into her room every week. But the main thing is he said she was beautiful. From these words, she hides her face in embarrassment and imagines what might happen if some accident suddenly occurs between them. Holding her favorite book high, she announces that Masato is exactly like the prince on the cover. Suddenly something sharply catches her eye. She gets off the bed and heads straight to the mirror. While looking at herself, she realizes she does not look like her role at all, because next to the hero, there is always a pretty heroine who looks absolutely natural there, because that is why she is sure. There is no chance that a lame girl with glasses from her class could ever be next to such a cool hero. So she concludes that she has no other choice but to become like the heroine. She calls her mother and asks, teach her how to do makeup. Since then, she changes her entire lifestyle. She gives up the habit of braiding her hair and switches from glasses to contact lenses. With this new look, she goes to school the next day, and as soon as she enters the classroom, several girls already sitting there immediately notice her. Sitting in her seat, Shiori hopes she does not look strange and thinks, probably the girls staring at her will wonder what such a clumsy, shapeless girl like her can do. No sooner does Shiori think about this than two girls approach her and start staring intently. She is trembling with fear. And one of them responds friendly and asks if she did a makeover, because now a completely different aura comes from her. Their approach throws her off track to the very bottom of her soul, and as soon as the fear recedes, Shiori nods, yes, it's her. And just like that, immediately she finds friends in her class, which surprises her herself. Before, she was convinced that she had nothing in common with the normies. But as soon as she starts talking to them, they unexpectedly get along very well. Although Shiori thinks they are a bit materialistic, Shiori understands a simple thing. It was she who kept pushing people away all the time. Later, Shiori goes into a clothing store with her friends, and one of them asks if she wants to look exemplary and decent, after which she suggests clothes that will definitely suit her. Since Shiori has almost no everyday clothes, her friend picks out several looks for her, one of which she intends to show Masato. With a new face, she is convinced. Now she can finally stand next to the hero. But as soon as this thought appears, Masato comes to tutor her and, standing by the door of her room, asks if he can come in. She gives permission and he enters. Shiori sees again how Masato shines, dazzling, almost blinding, and she has to restrain herself with all her might not to burst out how incredibly handsome he looks. Then Masato notices a book on his desk and asks what she is reading today. She is shocked that the book is still lying so openly. It's an erotic novel. It's good that she hid it under the cover of another book, so it should be safe. He will never guess anyway. And when Shiori answers that it is a work by Mr. Takasaki, Masato says he is curious about what kind of life the author must have lived to write such an opening phrase. But Shiori, because she hasn't read a single page of the book hidden behind the fake cover, cannot answer at all. Because of this, she decides, next time she reads a book, she will have to read exactly the one that matches the cover. When Masato starts tutoring her, for a moment she is truly happy. She doesn't really like studying, but she adores the time spent with him. Noticing from her reaction that she can't keep up, Masato honestly says, this part is difficult to understand. Hearing this, Shiori mentally apologizes, saying that although he explains everything so clearly, she simply cannot keep his pace. So she decides to focus and figure everything out so as not to be a burden. As soon as she thinks about it, Masato moves in very close and, without showing himself from the front, says from behind that he will trace these words with his fingers so that it is easier for her to follow them. While he continues speaking, Shiori gets so confused that she starts wondering, did a private ASMR session just start for her? And he also touches her back with his hand. This sensation turns everything upside down in his head. She involuntarily lets out a quiet oof, and this confuses Masato. Then she abruptly runs out of the room, stating that she needs to go to the bathroom. Pressing her back against the door of her room, she trembles at the very thought that she actually said something like that. After this, she heads to the restroom, still feeling that sticky memory of Masato's touch on her back and near her ear, spreading through her body like a wave. She notices how her restrained and decent mask is already beginning to crack and convinces herself she is not entirely to blame after all. The situation is simply unfair. While Masato remains in the room and has no idea whether he has gone a bit too far, Shiori painfully realizes in the bathroom, such dirty desires do not suit the heroine. And right now, she irresistibly wants to release those feelings that overflow inside her. And then in the bathroom, she suddenly blurts out that she really wanted to push him down. She imagines what face Masato would make if she really dared, no longer wanting to feel him only through their clothes, but craving skin to skin, pressed against his body. This thought makes her not just aroused, she becomes resolute to conquer her lewd private teacher no matter the cost. A few days later, Sarah enters the office and sees on the attendance board, Maki took a half-day off on Friday afternoon. She thinks Friday is usually the night of what they call a banquet, when after work they go to a boys' bar. But if Maki took the day off that day, does that mean she won't be there this week? Just as this thought sinks into her head, Maki comes in and greets, "Good morning." Sarah replies the same "good morning." While Maki tries to cheer her up and says they will get through this week, Sarah asks about her day off. Maki assures she will still come to the banquet. When Sarah says she understands, Maki smiles crookedly and gestures around her as if emphasizing her own game. Then she approaches closer with a sly smile, asking if she wants to know the reason, teasing her. Sarah catches the mood and answers directly that she does. Then Maki leans in and whispers quietly, asking if she knows what a shift in companion means. Hearing this, Sarah steps back in shock, judging by what she remembers. It's a system where girls meet the host in advance, and then, after spending some time together, go to the bar. That's exactly what Maki does. She reveals that she is going on a date with Yusuke, and a little later will head to the bar. She explains that the bar usually does not allow guys to accompany girls unless they are among their favorites. So when Yusuke agrees, Sarah forms a picture in her head and thinks, it turns out she will already be considered a favorite. Having grasped all this, Sarah feels strong envy and asks Maki if the host himself invited her. But when Maki does not answer and looks away, Sarah immediately understands. She was the one who invited him. She feels relieved. She is sure if Maki had really been invited as a guest, she would be grinding her teeth from pure envy. After that, Sarah aloud wonders if she should also invite Masato. Mickey thinks it's a great idea and emphasizes that he also likes her, so he will gladly agree. And most importantly, remind her that the bonus payment is very close. Maki considers this the perfect moment for a walk together with a companion who immediately has an open bag for expenses. When Maki heads to his table and hums to himself, asking aloud whether to give Yusuke something, Sari also suddenly starts liking this idea so vividly, as if she is already sitting in a restaurant with Masato. And when she gives him a small box, she herself goes to meet him. And while he opens the box and shows the ring, Sarah stands behind and carefully takes it. Karen charismatically asks where she should put it, but suddenly falters and breaks her imagination. She realizes that such a sharp action might scare him off. She shifts her gaze and writes Masato a message, asks if he would go with her this Friday, and adds that he can refuse if he wants. Sarah considers this a chance to take a new step forward and presses the send button. She decides that a quick snack before going to the bar will be enough. Even this should become a special moment, especially since she does not want to remain just a client for him forever. A few moments later, while she is working at the table, the phone flashes with a notification. And while Sarah anxiously reviews the message, she is overwhelmed with joy. Masato accepted her request. Later that same Friday, Sarah carefully wipes herself with paper napkins in a public restroom and meticulously checks if she smells of sweat. When everything is finished, she goes out, fixes her makeup and hairstyle in the mirror, and having put herself in order, goes outside to wait for Masato. It is almost time for their meeting. She feels incredibly strange. Just the thought of meeting him outside the boys' bar makes her heart beat faster than usual, and she did not know that something like this could make her so happy. As soon as she thinks about it, Masato calls her he. He appears in casual clothes, apologizes and asks if he made her wait, but she does not answer. All she can think about is how devilishly he looks. Although she quickly comes to her senses, convincing herself that he is the devil, his cold-bloodedness is almost oppressive. Yet she still believes right now she would be happy even if he hit her, although she knows Masato would never do that. As soon as she looks closer, she suddenly thinks he dressed a bit grown-up. The top button on his shirt is open, revealing his collarbone, and for some reason, this turns out to be very arousing. She sharply turns around and accidentally blurts out one word aloud, "Sexy." Without listening to the end, Masato asks if she said something. She quickly brushes it off, saying it's nothing, and assures that she waited only a short time. Then she tries to change the subject and suggests moving on, and Masato thanks her for the restaurant reservation. Having said this, he smiles at her and says that he is looking forward to it. Seeing him like that, Sarah flinches confusedly and covers her mouth, not daring to voice aloud how incredibly cute he is. She wonders, is this really a date, and do they both understand it the same way? A few moments later, they enter the restaurant and sit at their reserved table. Masato says it's nice here, and Sarah giggles and teases him, saying he's still a child enjoying this and he feels a bit embarrassed because of it. He insists that he is definitely an adult, and Sarah thinks to herself, it is exactly this behavior that makes him cute. Given this, she notices, in the restaurant all the girls are looking at Masato. This annoys her a little, although overall she cannot blame them for it and understands why. And now inside her awakens an indescribable feeling of superiority over them, but she quietly apologizes to herself, because she thinks that this boy belongs to her. She slides the menu to him and says, "Choose whatever you want, she will pay." But Masato asks to at least give him some money, and she immediately objects. Since she invited him, she will not allow him to pay a single cent. She assures him that she is not lacking money at all and sincerely believes the only thing truly worth spending on is him. So at first she really thought to choose an even more classic place, but now she understands. That could make him too nervous, and she doesn't want that. It's important to her that he rests well. When he orders and eats exactly as he ordered, Sarah asks herself inside what his taste is and what he feels, and even rejoices seeing his reaction. The sparkles in his eyes the same as in a child. And she also notices how he eats, elegantly, wonderfully. While these thoughts continue in her, she also. In his thoughts, he admits to himself how much she loves him and understands even in such small things everything she likes about him continues to grow. Later, as soon as the meal finishes, Masato admits the food is insanely delicious. He says he doesn't remember when he last ate something so good, and Sarah replies that she is glad he likes it. It seems to her that his reaction is so pure and so sweet, almost as if he doesn't know anything dirty at all. And that's exactly why, to confirm this, she asks him why he works in a boys' bar, although she knows she shouldn't ask such questions. The more she learns about him, the more she wants to know. Essentially, his job boils down to selling himself. But since she has known him, Masato hardly seems like a person who voluntarily chooses such work. Even in the bar, he looks unlike everyone else. When he hesitates to answer, she immediately understands. He really doesn't want to reveal this, and so she apologizes for asking something so difficult. But he assures her it's nothing terrible and explains that he takes this job because he has no money. He tells that at first he lived in the establishment, and that someone in the bar treated him kindly. Thanks to this, he was able to get a job there. Nervously flinching, she thinks, could it be that by institution he means an orphanage? And when she says this word again, Masato explains that he is an orphan. Hearing this, Sarah quickly apologizes, but Masato assures her it did not affect him at all. And yet she understands her own curiosity released the brakes without any thought for his feelings, and in the end she asks such a thoughtless question. Masato stands up again and calms her. Everything is fine, and now he is lucky to live an ordinary life. And without losing his smile, he says that he is truly happy with this ordinary life, just as Sarah sees the expression on his face. Sarah is enchanted by this, but in her chest a whole mixture of different emotions is already stirring. Later, when they left the restaurant, Masato thanks her for bringing him to such a wonderful place. She waves it off. It's nothing, just her way of saying thanks, and then he notes that he still hasn't been able to repay her in return. Hearing this, Sarah wonders what he might want from her, looks closely at him, smiles, and then asks. She asked if he would go with her again, and he instantly agreed, so joy enveloped her. The next date was already taking shape by itself. Then the thought hits her. Maybe next time, instead of going to his work, they could go after, since she no longer considers them just client and staff. And she feels, if something affects him in the future, she will be there listening as a person who can be relied on, because now they have become something more. And then she stopped at this and asked, would it be bad if they even went to the bar holding hands? Well, as she had thought. Because such requests throw him off balance, the thought of it only cools him down and confuses him. Then he turns his head away and covers his face with one hand, while the other slowly reaches out to her and in a quiet, submissive voice says that it is not a problem. She takes his hand and he tremulously reaches out to meet her, and her heart beats even faster. And she believes that is why she managed to see his heart and get closer to him, so he slowly opens up to her. She considers this feeling simply wonderful to see in him, both the sweet and at the same time the cool. And at the same time, she, poor and miserable Masato inside, assures him that everything is fine. Like SH. It is better that she works harder so that he no longer has to carry such work. At that very moment, a new feeling is born in her. An incredible desire to protect him, and she decides never to show him anything ugly, and also to fulfill every one of his wishes and not let him suffer. And for this she wants to be with him forever, for eternity. The next day, too hot, and Masato does not want to turn on the air conditioner to save electricity, so he goes outside. He heads straight to the basketball court, which is usually empty on weekdays, but on Sunday it seems to him, suddenly someone will still be nearby. And as he suspected, not in vain, there are indeed many people playing basketball there. To his surprise, when he approaches the fence, he recognizes a familiar face. This is none other than Yukon. Today she, it seems, is not playing alone. Masato begins to wind himself up. What if they bully her again just like yesterday? But everything becomes clear, she is actually interested. She is just playing with other students without any hint that she is to be hurt. When one of her friends says she is tired, Yuka suggests taking a break, and it is so unexpected for Masato that he even feels a relief in his chest, as if her leadership refreshed him from within. Putting all this aside, he is about to leave thinking he should not interrupt them, but he is noticed and called. Standing on the other side of the fence, Masato asks if she noticed him. She replies that she can feel when he is near. Then he apologizes for trying to leave, explaining that he just did not want to be a bother. When he is almost leaving, Yuka stops him and asks if he really intends to go home right now. At that very moment, all her friends gather around and start asking who Masato is and how he scared her so much. One of the friends notes, this is the same guy she hangs out with on Fridays. Because of this, another girl asks without hesitation if he is her boyfriend. Yuka, already embarrassed, quickly tries to clarify everything. Masato is just teaching her basketball because he is actually very good at it. When friends say they understand, you feel relieved, the tension dissipates. But you freeze when they ask Masato to teach them basketball. Later, as soon as Masato agreed to teach them, Yuka got embarrassed. She had told them about this place because it was hot and humid inside the gym. But if she had known that everything would turn out this way, she wouldn't have done it. While Yuka is thinking about this, she notices her friend Miho squeezing Masato's hand and does not understand why to do it. She was so annoyed that in her head she commands, Masato is hers, not theirs. While Masato teaches the girls how to hit the ball off the ground, Yuka wonders how focused they are working. She understands that all her friends also love playing basketball, and as soon as this thought crosses her mind, Masato reveals, he taught Yuka the same way. Hearing this, she immediately realizes, even if he teaches everyone, the time with him will still be hers alone. She perceives these moments as their special time and quietly dreams that for Masato it would be the same, then she would be twice as happy. Having said this to herself honestly, she notices her friends have already started calling him Oni-san. This really annoys her, and in her thoughts she cannot understand why they address her brother that way. After all, to her he is simply her Oni-san. But since everyone already calls him that, she wonders, maybe she should call him Masato-san. And again she recalls how truly happy he was when she previously called him Ana-san. A moment passes and a new thought appears in her head, maybe then Masato-san, not that. Later, when practice is coming to an end, Masato praises everyone, says they worked well, and insists on keeping the bar high also in club activities. Meanwhile, Yuka drinks water until her friend Miho addresses Masato, asks what kind of person Yuka is to him, and Yuka immediately chokes, coughing on the sip. In a panic, Yuka quickly overwhelms Miho with a suffocating enthusiasm before she can say anything else, but Miho still manages to ask, isn't Yuka interested herself? Inside, Yuka admits, that question lingers in her mind, especially after he hugged her the other day, so now she replays the thought, does she like him the same way? But despite her disappointment and horror, Masato calmly answers, maybe Yuka is like a younger sister to him. She admits they are really very close. He values her too, but there is a feeling being his little sister is not enough. As long as he sees only a sister in her, he will never fall in love with her, so she cannot be his girlfriend, even if she loves him herself. Trying to change something about this, she glances at Masato out of the corner of her eye. He catches her gaze and responds with a smile. That smile makes her tremble, and she confidently thinks she wants him to fall in love with her. But just as she manages to think this, Miho suddenly asks Masato if he has a girlfriend. Here. Yuka immediately realizes this and whispers to her not to ask so suddenly, but Masato replies that he does not have a girlfriend. Miho is surprised, and Yuka breathes a sigh of relief. If he had said yes, she would have definitely started crying. But suddenly Miho declares that she will voluntarily become Masato's girlfriend, and this throws Yuka off balance. She sharply reminds her, she already said she has a boyfriend. And Masato, awkwardly smiling, turns everything into a joke as if that's how it should be. While her friends fuss and get ready to move on, Yuka approaches Masato and sincerely thanks him for today. He replies in the same tone, says it's all right, and also apologizes for interfering with her time with friends. Yuka assures him it's absolutely not a problem. In a quiet, trembling voice, she nervously asks if he would like to come and watch her next game. Masato admits that he really wants to see her play, and this lifts Yuka's mood. But inside, there are still words she does not dare to say. Somewhere deep in her soul, she honestly admits she does not mind so much being put in the role of a younger sister, but she wants to take their relationship to the next level. Still, she cannot force herself to say this out loud and instead tells him that it is nothing. After that, Masato suggests moving on. While she calls herself a coward inside, Masato confidently declares he will train with her anytime. She replies that next time she wants to train one-on-one, and Masato laughs and immediately agrees. Smiling, he adds one more condition. If they are going to train, it is better that they be just the two of them. She is completely confused, and just as she nods, a thought suddenly flashes in her head. Does Masato also want everything to be just the two of them? While she is thinking about this, Masato notices her shoes and points, as if to say the shoes are already completely worn out and they are not even basketball shoes. Yuka replies that she has inner basketball sneakers, but she plays outside in regular sneakers. Masato continues his thought she should wear proper basketball shoes even outside, and when she asks why, he simply answers it reduces the risk of injury. But since she has nothing suitable, Masato suggests, next time they will go to the store and buy her a pair, and this puts her in a dead end. He insists that she better take proper basketball sneakers and throws a question, how about next week? Yuka immediately agrees and does not even notice how she perceives it as a date. Imagining it as their first date, she giggles and says goodbye to Masato. But at that very moment Miho calls her. And suddenly all her friends pounce on her and ask why she did not introduce them to someone like him. They mockingly ask if Yuka was going to keep Masato just for herself and go so far as to call her a cunning pervert. From these words, Yuka is completely confused and starts to sulk, asking them not to say such strange nonsense. Despite all the chaos, she only needs to remember that she and Masato will go on a date, and laughter breaks through her again as if nothing happened. Miho, without any doubt, finally feels he has already caught some of her steps toward him. Later that same week, Yuka, dressed casually, waits for Masato near the shopping center. And here he finally arrives. As soon as he says that she came early, Yuka greets him with good morning and explains that she woke up a little earlier than usual. Masato notices. He sees her in such an outfit for the first time in his life, and Yuka immediately confirms that she always used to wear basketball gear before. Then she twirls her hair between her fingers and asks how she looks. Subconsciously considering this a date, Yuka wore the most mature-looking clothes she could so that he would notice her, even if just a little. Masato smiles in response and says that she looks cute and that this outfit really suits her. Feeling this, Yuka freezes from the compliment and thanks him with a soft, quiet voice. Although she is glad, she was actually expecting him to say, she is beautiful, not just looks cute. So she tightens the strap of her bag more firmly so persistently that he finally notices her properly. As soon as they enter the sports store, Yuka notices that it turns out to be very spacious. Masato explains, they sell not only basketball equipment there, so he suggests going straight to the section and she agrees. Then she asks if he has been there before and he answers that yes. Only it feels like it's the first time again. Hearing this, Yuka thinks, could the place have been renovated to feel so different? Then she dismisses the thought and remembers how Masato said that he actually never trained in basketball, and because of this he seems even more incredible to her. He does it so skillfully, no formal lessons, no beginner, she suspects. He might have trained in other sports before. While she is pondering this, a thought suddenly overwhelms her. She still knows almost nothing about him. While he rummages through the shelves looking for shoes for her, Yuka watches him out of the corner of her eye and decides, from now on she will learn about him more deeply. After some time, Masato asks if anything caught her attention, and she secretly hopes that he will choose something for her. But she doesn't have time to let go of this dream as he notices a pair similar to the one he himself uses. And as soon as he remembers this, Yuka asks if it's true or if she is mistaken. He confirms and adds, it's his version or indoor, but he still really likes the design. Yuka immediately declares that she chooses exactly this pair and Masato is taken aback. He asks if she is making the decision too quickly. She waves it off, saying everything is fine and calls a store employee to try them on. As always, she feels confident he will definitely take us. Masato, however, looks a bit uncertain but eventually accepts her choice. Meanwhile, Yuka is happy now they will have a pair together. After this, Masato asks if she can wait a moment. He wants to buy one thing and Yuka agrees, not even imagining what it might be. She assumes that these are probably basketball things, and mentally already imagines how nice it would be to watch together when Masato returns, apologizing for making her wait. He hands her a bag, and as soon as she looks inside, she finds the very same basketball sneakers from Surprise. It feels like everything is cursing inside her. Facing him, she says that she has money from her mother so she could pay. But Masato assures her it's all right and asks her to take it as a celebration of her becoming a regular. Having said this, he strokes her head and asks if she is okay. She politely bows and thanks him. He replies that she can come and adds, from now on you need to train a lot. She agrees and laughs. A sincere smile simply bursts from her face. Suddenly it dawns on her how pleasant it is to feel happy when you receive a gift from someone you like. While she presses the bag to her chest, Masato asks if she is really that happy and she decisively nods. At that moment she realizes, Although she wants him to look at her differently, she probably still remains to him like a younger sister. For now, all she can do is quietly savor this happiness. Late that night at Yuki's house, while she lies in bed, the thought does not leave her. How to break out of the role of just a little sister. At first she weighs physical closeness, then remembers the last time they hugged, it all came down to him just stroking her head. She clearly understands. This is not enough for her and begins to wonder maybe she wants a kiss. In her imagination, she barely feels the mere possibility. Embarrassed, she sharply pushes the thought away and whispers to herself. If she went that far, he would definitely notice and come to his senses. But Masato, that very kiss just won't leave her mind. And clutching a plush toy in the air, Yuki thinks about how sweet the first kiss with her first love could be. The thought gnaws at her head. She tests it on the soft toy, almost ready to move on, but suddenly stops and tells herself, it's just a joke. And then she realizes, tonight it seems she won't be able to sleep. The next day, when Masato, Kumi, and Mitsuo Ho are walking home after classes, Masato shows that there will be a test during the week and admits that he is not confident at all. Mitsuo Ho asks him not to worry, everything will work out. And Kumi chimes in, she always says that and barely passes every time. Mizuho says that everything works out precisely because she cuts it close. And lately, it has become natural for the three of them to hang out together, so Kami gets a cozy, such a valuable space. That's exactly why she is afraid to ruin everything by confessing her feelings to Masato. At that moment, Kumi understands everything. If she hesitates any longer, others might take him and someone who doesn't care. And he is too careless in this matter. Masato reminds them that they already talked about the batting center and asks if they are free today. He says they will go together. Kumi immediately agrees without hesitation. He says he will show her what she is capable of, and Masato laughs in response. He can't wait to see her hit the ball. Kumi, irritated, jumps on the spot and asks if he doesn't believe her. She also asks him not to underestimate her. After all, she is a former member of the softball club. Then Kumi asks Mizuho to back her up. Masato still doesn't look very convinced. Mizuho nods, says Masato's reaction is understandable. Imagining sweet Kumi smashing the ball is indeed a bit hard. And she advises him to engrave her majestic performance in his memory. Kumi asks Mizuho if she is coming, but she doesn't answer immediately, and Masato also waits for her words. After a short pause, Mitsugo smiles and says that she actually has plans today, so they have to go and have fun without her. When Kumi asks if that's really so, Mitsugo sarcastically replies, nothing can be done, she is just so popular. Kumi immediately feels something is wrong here. Mitsugo usually follows step by step as soon as Kumi calls someone. But here Mitsugo suddenly dashed away and Kumi shouts at her to stop. But she disappears so quickly that even Masato looks confused and asks aloud if she was really in such a hurry. In response, Kumi only sighs and mutters that Mitsugo is an idiot, adding that it doesn't hurt her at all. Masato doesn't have time to understand what she means and asks what happened, and she replies that it is nothing and that they should go. After today, Kumi decides, finally she will explain everything properly to the lady. Atoyu Yuku says exactly that. She does not find her annoying at all, on the contrary, she really enjoys spending time with these three. And most importantly, she is just as concerned about Mitsugo. Later, on the fighting ground, Masato declares that after so many years he is getting excited again. Kumi writes that he is like a little child. The other replies, such things taste best when you reconnect with your inner child. Hearing this, Kumi wonders what Masato was like in childhood and decides that back then he was probably cool. After that, she tells him to go first, saying he has such an impatient look on his face, and Masato agrees. Excitedly shouting, let's go. Kumi finds him cute, but as soon as she notices that he is heading to the 130-kilometer batting lane, she tries to point it out to her. But he shrugs indifferently. Everything is fine and honestly admits, in fact, he defends quite well. She finds it hard to believe him, but she dismisses her doubts when he asks her to hold his bag for a moment and agrees. Holding it in her hands, Kumi smiles as it just dawns on her. Carrying something like this is exactly what a boy does for his boyfriend. While Masato prepares to hit the ball, Kumi, filled with excitement, wonders if she can just become his girlfriend already. When the balls fly at incredible speed, he easily hits them back, and Kumi, breathless with amazement, exclaims that he is simply incredible. He doesn't stop, continues hitting without pauses, aiming at every ball, not missing a single one. While Kumi keeps watching him, she blushes. He seems incredibly cool to her, and she decides to capture this moment. While she is filming, he hits another home run and she gasps with admiration, praising how incredible he is. He indifferently replies, these are simple things for him. From the video screen, Kumi immediately understands. If she posts this on social media, everyone will think he is her boyfriend. While she still hesitates whether to stop these thoughts, Masato returns from the alley with a satisfied, joyful face and says it was incredibly fun. He adds, although a lot of time has passed, he is still glad he managed to hit a few reliable home runs. Kyumi is shocked the answer does not satisfy her and exclaims that his skills are on a completely different level. When Masato smiles and asks if that is true, Kyumi's heart skips a beat. Kyumi moves on and says she is next, but Masato asks if she is also going for the 130-kilometer lane and advises her to choose a slower one just in case. Ignoring his advice, she hands the ball back to him and inserts a coin to start. Entering the pitching field, she confidently declares that she will also prove she is incredible. With a smile, she tells him to watch carefully. This slightly confuses him, but he agrees. Then when the ball flies toward her, she cleanly hits it. Masato is surprised, and Kyumi proudly reminds him that she told him so. Determined, she will show him the best and won't miss a single serve. Later, however, she regrets it. She feels she overdid it. She realizes she got carried away, and even if they came together, it will all be pointless if Masato doesn't enjoy it too. While she worries whether he will find her scary because of how aggressively she hit the ball, he approaches and, noticing her facial expression, asks, "What happened?" She quickly pulls herself together and replies that everything is fine, then asks how he feels about sporty girls. Masato asks what she means and she answers, "I'm asking about your taste. You don't like them, right?" Masato says maybe that's why it turns out this way, because he spends time with a very sporty girl and he actually quite likes sporty girls. Kyumi reacts with surprise that he hangs out with an athlete. Then she recalls, someone as cool as Masato probably always keeps girls close. At that moment, Masato asks when she started playing softball. She replies that probably back in elementary school. Then Masato comments, "No wonder you are so good at it." Now that Kyumi knows Masato doesn't hate sporty girls, she wonders, is it okay for her to be happy about this? Later, when they part ways, Kyumi boards a train to go home. This scares her. Now everything looks so usual, so comfortable, and that's what frightens her, because at any moment everything could fall apart. Just as she is drowning in these thoughts, she suddenly notices a notification. It turns out to be a message from Masato with an attached image. When she opens it, she sees a photo of herself exactly at the moment just before she is about to hit the ball in the batting zone. In the message, Masato writes that he took this shot because it seemed to him that she looks simply incredibly cool and that he is letting her win today's match. Reading this, she blushes again and again, remembers how much she loves him. Since then, she was certain, if she ever loses him, everything will completely fall apart. For now, Mizuho understands only one thing: she is behaving strangely. Because every time she is near Masato, she feels as if she has become a completely different person. This worries her, especially because Kyumi trusts her and introduced Masato as her destined one. But now everything frighteningly changed. Mizuho begins to doubt, was her heart really always so fickle? She knows that she still wants to find the one whom, as it seems to her, she is destined for, the one who once helped her with contacts. And this feeling has not disappeared. But now she is troubled by something else. What exactly are her feelings toward Masato? Although her best friend loves him and although Mizuho knows, she simply cannot fall in love with him. Therefore, she does not want Kyumi to force herself to call her. Miho understands this. Then she will only get in the way. She thinks that she is already taking the time they could spend together, so if she interferes even more, she will simply become a terrible person. But she also understands that nothing can be changed anymore and calls herself an idiot for even thinking that. Kyumi calls her against her will, or something like that. She walks down the same street where she once met her unknown betrothed, but actually Masato. Mizuho wonders if she will see him again, but she realizes the time and even the day of the week here is different than then. Meeting him by chance would be nothing less than a miracle. But despite everything, Mizuho desperately wants to see him and make sure that he is truly the person she loves. She thinks if she manages this, maybe she can meet Kyumi and Masato without guilt. At that moment, while she is thinking this, Mizuho sees a man in the same suit as the one who helped her pass from the corner of her eye. Recognizing the uniform, she freezes in disbelief and calls him with a trembling voice. But as soon as he turns around, it becomes clear. Before her is a completely different person. And yet, because the suit is the same, she nervously asks if he happens to be a university student working part-time. After considering this, the guy answers yes, and this makes Mizuho ask if he knows the name of that person. Still, the guy apologizes and says that it is personal information that he cannot disclose. Mizuho quickly apologizes in response, simultaneously scolding herself in her thoughts as if she were an idiot. Seeing her reaction, the guy immediately hands her a card and offers that he can visit if she is interested. Mizuho thanks him, and when she holds the card in her hands, she is surprised that he really has a business card. Then the guy says goodbye to her and, winking, calls her milady, which takes her breath away. And she notices, even when he says something like that, her heart does not speed up for a moment. So it's not about someone's words and her feelings do not deceive her. At first she brushes off this thought, but then she notices. In the upper corner of the card it says Boys Bar Festa. This shocks her because it's Boys Bar. She was already about to leave immediately, but after this she changed her mind. Everything suddenly turned upside down and twists the situation until the very end. Late that night, while she is examining, she visits the Festa Bar's website and finds out. To enter, you must be over 18 years old. What overwhelms her most is irritation. Supposedly, in such places everything must be incredibly expensive. But in a moment she stops and thinks, could her fate have led her to the person just because he is a host and he is simply polite? But she does not believe that his kindness was fake. Just as she manages to think this, the phone explodes with a notification. This is a message from Kumi. She lets Mizuho know that she does not need to be careful with her and thanks her. After reading it, Mizuho laughs. Kumi has already guessed her intentions but thinks it is okay if she is happy because that is the most important thing for her. After this, even more messages come from Kumi, and this time with photos. In some of them, Masato is visible. Kumi writes that she photographed him from behind and that he in response also took several photos of her. Seeing these photos and reading this, Mizuho grabs his collar and asks why it hurts so much. She wants to talk, as always. She tries to say something like Kumi is now basically Masato's girlfriend, but for some reason she can't. While these thoughts roll around in her head, her gaze slides to the business card. She clenches it in her hand and realizes there really is no other way she must go so as not to hurt either her best friend or herself, and so she decides to put an end to this feeling. The next day, Sarah is sitting in a cafe during office hours. She was suddenly ordered to take time off in the afternoon. She came here because there was nothing else to do. And just as this thought formed in her mind, she immediately received a message from Masato. Earlier she asked if he would be at the bar today, and he replied that he had no shift. She expected that since it wasn't Friday. Then he sends another message. If she has time, she can drop by the Bearvin when he actually won't be there. There are enough people anyway and they are all pleasant. It annoys her. She doesn't understand how he can talk about it so easily, because for her it can always only be him and she is incapable of thinking about anyone else. So she decides to explain everything clearly. There is no one in her field of vision except him. But to be honest, she was almost never brought food by Masato, and she begins to wonder if there are other people like him somewhere. However, she believes that such a probability is 1 in 100 million. But still, having a little time, she decides to visit another boys' bar to check this in practice. She feels terribly awkward entering another bar alone for the first time. And another reason is that she is not going to Festa. She does not want Masato to find out that she asked another guy, although she understands that he most likely would not have paid attention to it. At the very moment Sarah thinks about this, her assigned host appears on the line. He greets her with good evening, says that she looks incredibly beautiful, and adds that this makes him feel awkward. However, he is happy at the same time. After a short pause, Sarah responds when he sits next to her. As she thought, it feels different, purely empty, superficial words. Meanwhile, Masato really meant what he said, from the bottom of his heart, no matter how nervous he was. And most importantly, she notices this by his smile because it makes him completely different in every possible sense. Then the guy starts talking about work and hobbies, and between phrases subtly weaves in small compliments. Even if he sounds nice, Sarah still feels he is not sincere, but this, after all, is expected because that is his job. This does not mean that he is doing something wrong. On the contrary, Sarah concludes she is to blame. Because of this, it seems to her that she has changed nothing since her student days, still as twisted and unattractive. She leaves the bar, and although less than an hour has passed, it seems to her that time stretches much longer, not at all like when she is with Masato. Their time flies in an instant. After talking with another host, and after nothing resembling anxiety stirs in her heart, relief comes. And although she does not really like spending time and money like this, she still manages to confirm something important. The same firm conviction lurks in her. For her, Masato is the only one she wants, and he is her destiny. As soon as she thinks about this, she already receives a message from Masato to ask him sometimes too, otherwise he will have no clients left. Hearing this, she shyly covers her mouth and cannot understand why her heart beats so wildly because of him. After reading the message, she is overwhelmed with the longing to meet immediately, and she wants him to understand. For her, he is the only one. She wants to hug him tightly and say she sees only him, and most importantly that no one else remains in his heart except her. If she is going to postpone, she first writes a message to assure he is the only one she asks, and then she hesitates, wondering if it sounds too straightforward. So she rephrases the sentence as if he insists, she might consider the request, but it comes off as condescending. She erases everything and writes differently, without pressure but still conveys what she feels. Eventually, she sends that she will ask him only because she really enjoys talking with him. After that, having sent the message, she whistles to herself while walking home, stubbornly striving for him to be happy in the end. The next day, Sarah goes out with a few girlfriends and they chat about their boyfriends. Although it was supposed to be a meeting with former classmates, everyone except Sarah has a boyfriend, and this makes her feel uncomfortable and awkward. She actually did not want to go. She knew it would end exactly like this because every time the center of attention is the boys. As soon as she thought this, one of the girlfriends asks how she has been lately. After a short pause, Sarah replies that she had quite a good time. As soon as the friends hear this, they all start asking if she has a boyfriend and insistently ask to see his photo. Overwhelmed with emotions, she shows them a picture of Masato, the one the girlfriends consider handsome. One says that although he is not some flashy heartthrob, he has a refreshing charm. Another admits she is jealous. While they drink, Sarah inwardly agrees with them. He really is so handsome and kind, like an angel. As soon as she thinks this, one of her friends asks where she met him. Sarah answers, at a bar, so she goes to him on the days he works. As soon as she heard this, the room fell silent, and one of her girlfriends asked if it could be a bar for boys. Sarah confirmed. Seeing their embarrassed reactions, she wonders if she said something strange, and another girlfriend asks if she is dating him. Sarah replies that they are not dating yet, and this makes her friend ask how much she spends on him each month. Hearing this, Sarah wonders why they even bring it up. Money is not a problem at all. Then she replies that it is not such a large amount, probably about half of her monthly salary. This shocks her friend, who loudly repeats half, and Sarah calmly tells her not to shout. Noticing no real concern in their eyes, Sarah dives into her own thoughts, imagining how next time she will give Masato a gift and how happy he will be. At the very moment she is thinking about it, one of her friends suddenly advises her to stop seeing him and says, next time she will ask her boyfriend to arrange a mixed party to which Sarah must come. This throws Sarah off track, and the thought flashes in her mind. She doesn't care about all this and doesn't want to spend money on any guy except for Masato. Then the friend adds that she will say something harsh now and continues. Masato uses her for money. It is not only her. All her friends look at Sarah with anxiety, and she understands they consider Masato just like all the other random hosts. Since she went to check other bars, she reassures her friends that Masato is not that kind of man, and adds that he works only 1 day a week, and she is his only regular client. She herself says this with confidence, but her friends still look at her with pity and anxiety. Then one of them grabs Sarah by the hand and again insistently calls her to the mixer to drain that guy, assuring her that they are doing it precisely for her sake. But Sarah sharply cuts them off and asks what they actually mean. So they are doing everything for her sake. As if they really cared, they would have supported her. A cold demand sounds in her words. When a friend asks her to calm down, Sarah does not stop. She asks if they even imagine what she had to go through and adds back then, when everything was painful and terrible, it was Masato who saved her, so he is not like other guys. Then she asks why they cannot understand this. She insists, he is always worried whether she is spending too much money and says things like that. Say to her gentle and kind words so that she wonders, why should he pay if it helps him even a little, especially when he does this job just to support himself? Then she tells her friends to stop worrying about silly things, and insists that everything will definitely be resolved. But her friends still look at her with anxiety, while inside she orders them not to do so. She can no longer stand it and leaves. And as soon as she goes out, their words still echo in her head, that she is being deceived and that Masato is using her for money, and she rejects it again and again. She does not believe what they say. She is convinced that Masato is not that kind of person and that she knows him better than anyone. She is sure she is doing nothing wrong, so she sends Masato a message, saying that she went out for a drink with some friends and next time she was invited to a group mixer, which she does not want to attend. At that moment, as soon as she sends the message, it seems to her, if it were Masato, he would definitely try to stop her and say something like, I am here to help you. But instead Masato replies that it is a great idea and that she might even find someone nice. Reading this, she freezes, tears well up. She does not understand why he does not stop her and again tells herself, there is no such thing as a bad person, there is only him. And he is the only one she has. Next Friday, Sarah leaves the office late in the evening. At the end of the day, the boss again loads her with extra work, so she decides, from now on, no overtime on Fridays. But putting that aside, she still carries a heaviness in her chest after the quarrel with her friends and wants to see Masato as soon as possible. She also decided she will tell her friends only when she starts dating him because they are worried Masato is not her boyfriend yet. Sarah believes, As soon as the relationship begins, there will be no problems, and then everyone will definitely celebrate with her. Considering this plan, she moves on to the next stage with Masato. Soon she arrives at Festa Bar late and, adjusting herself, wonders if Masato is now at the reception desk. But as soon as she enters, another guy is already waiting for her there. While Sarah is puzzling over whether Masato is somewhere inside, the guy at the reception asks if she came for Masato. She nods, yes, but she still feels uncomfortable. Everyone already knows that she comes here just for him. But this really gives her a sense of advantage, as if she is almost the only one asking for Masato, although in reality, this is just a deceptive feeling. But at the very moment she thinks this, the guy apologizes and explains that Masato is currently busy with another client, and this instantly throws her off balance. Inside, she replays his words. What does he mean by another client, and who else could be there besides her? As soon as the guy starts naming the available hosts, Sarah cuts him off. It's okay. She just leaves, promising to return later. So Sarah goes out, sits near the boys' bar, and her mind is in complete chaos. She blames herself for being late, scolds the overtime, and decides that she should have come here right away. It turns out she herself gave another woman a chance. While she is still turning these thoughts over in her head, time passes, and it is almost the same moment when the client is supposed to leave. If they don't move forward, Sarah tries to calm herself. Today just a rare client came by chance. And who spends more money on Masato? She does, so it is she who will get more warmth from him. At that very moment, as she thinks this, and convinces herself that everything is fine, Masato comes out of the bar with the client, and Sarah's eyes suddenly open wide from what she sees. The client turns out to be none other than Mizuho, but Sarah does not know her personally and she lacks certainty. Only then does she recognize in her the very same girl, the one Masato once saved, like a princess in distress, when she lost her lenses. While the two of them chat happily, Sarah cannot come to terms with the scene. It seems to her as if that place belongs to her. Unable to bear it any longer, she turns into an alley and bursts into tears. No matter how much she replays everything in her head, the result is the same. That girl seems to suit him better. To her, Lady Yuho is a bright and wonderful young girl, and every time they talk, it blinds her so much that it is hard to look. Then Sarah looks again into the pocket mirror and thinks she looks terrible. She is sure she cannot change anything. Yet she decides she will not give up. No matter how dirty and ugly she feels, Masato is the only one she truly needs. When Mizuho leaves, Sarah racks her brains. What should she do now? Since she could not simply refuse that girl directly, Masato might have his own circumstances, and then he might form a bad impression of her. Since she could not simply refuse that girl directly, Masato might have his own circumstances, and then he might form a bad impression of her. Puts her hand on his shoulder and comments on what a sweet girl she was. That very morning, Mizuho enters the boys' bar with the card the owner gave her. Although she has already come to terms with the fact that her fate is to work in a boys' bar, she is still afraid to go inside alone. And she also understands, if he works in such a place, then he is probably used to dealing with women. This again makes her wonder if he was kind to her only because he is the owner. After a short pause, she decides not to overthink it, especially since she has already come this far. But as soon as this thought flashes by, the owner suddenly greets her from behind, sharply throwing her off balance. Then he asks if she is interested in their establishment, and she nervously tries in vain to object. But the owner immediately sees this is her first visit. He assures her that the bar's prices are not high, so he believes she will like it and have a great time. He even offers if she wants he can sit next to her first. At this offer, Mizuho twitches. Although he smiles, he looks as if he has caught prey. While the host continues to persuade her, Mizuho suddenly concludes, if such a weak-willed girl like her enters the bar, her wallet will be emptied instantly. And just as she decides that the only option is to run away, someone calls her from behind. She was shocked. It turned out to be Masato himself. Later, Mizuho thanks Masato for the help, and he asks if she is okay, explaining that his friend pressures people a bit. But in reality, he is a perfectly normal person. Mizuho assures that she is fine but still cannot recover from surprise. How does he know someone from the bar? And even despite her words, Masato still wonders what she is doing in such a place, and this completely confuses her. She quickly makes up an excuse. She says she is looking for a hairdresser she had visited before, just turned the wrong way. Seeing how her face instantly changes from embarrassment, he teases, even if she did go to the bar, there is nothing wrong with that. She immediately snaps, I don't go there. Masato bursts out laughing and explains that it was just a joke, but her body stiffens. She feels something stir inside her while he laughs right in her face. She tries to brush it off and throws the question back at him. What is he doing here? Masato replies, this is the station closest to his home. Mizuho accepts the explanation, then Masato asks if she is really okay and if it is alright for her to go home alone. She says everything is fine but thinks, on the contrary, he should be the one asking, since living alone in such a noisy neighborhood is probably dangerous for him. While they walk, Mizuho notices Masato glancing at her repeatedly. She can't stand it and asks, "What's wrong with him?" With a smile, he replies that he is simply relieved to see she is in good condition. Mizuho's heart skips a beat. She only needs to hear it. She involuntarily wonders why Masato should even be worried about her, and he even adds that Kyum was also concerned. As soon as these words reach her, a sharp, burning pain flares up in Mizuho's chest. She instantly puts together the picture. His anxiety is only because the kami are also worried. Again, she puts on a fake smile and stubbornly says that she is always full of energy. At this moment, she realizes this is exactly what made Kuma worry. To avoid any misunderstandings, she decides, probably she really needs to explain they just occasionally run into each other. While Mitsugo thinks that Masato belongs to Kyumi, he adds, he worries about her too. Surprised, Mizuho listens as Masato continues to speak. He hopes she is not overexerting herself too much, because she is one of those people who maintain a cheerful appearance even when feeling down. He adds that perhaps it sounds arrogant coming from him after all. They have known each other for a short time, but her energy always reaches him, so he cannot help but worry. Mizuho again catches herself being drawn to him, but immediately suppresses this impulse. She pretends to be cheerful and declares that she is the same super popular Mizuho who always shines brightly. Then she tells him to be grateful because next to someone as dazzling as her, even the night seems safe. When they arrive at the station, two roads diverge and Mizuho promises that tomorrow she will bring her brightness again. But as soon as she enters the station, she can no longer hold back. She presses her shoulder against the wall and does not understand why she wants to cry so much, even though she feels so good. Inside, she asks Masato not to be a bit kinder to her than he already is, and then decides to come to the bar anyway, no matter what. The next day, Mizuho asks Kyumi to go with her, confessing she is scared to go alone. Kyumi replies that perhaps this is asking too much. She says she wants to help but will feel guilty in front of Masato. Mizuho supports this thought, and Kyumi asks if she really feels okay. She says that he can only be kind because he is the host. Mizuho understands Kuni's concern. She once thought the same, but still does not want to believe that it was all just a show. Before Kyum can explain, Mizuho throws her a look of determination. Kyum immediately apologizes for doubting her, and Mizuho replies, "No need to apologize because her feelings are completely valid." Then Mizuho raises her hand and joyfully announces that she will go alone. She does not want to worry about this anymore. If so, then she must step forward onto the battlefield. At that very moment, Masato appears out of nowhere and asks where exactly she plans to fight. Both girls suddenly freeze. Confused, Mizuho immediately turns to Kyumi for help, but Kyumi's maiden mode is already activated and she has no support to offer. Realizing she will have to handle everything herself, Mizuho grabs a bottle of juice and pushes Masato, declaring, although the three of them were born at different times, they must swear to die at the same moment. Masato is completely bewildered by this, so he asks why she is making such a vow with a bottle of peach juice. Mizuho does the same with Kyumi, but inside she stubbornly repeats, everything is fine. She believes that since she started focusing on the person destined to be by her side, it has become much easier for her to talk to Masato naturally, like never before, because while the three of them walk to class and chat about their tests, Mizuho repeatedly reminds herself, everything is fine. Later, after parting ways with Kyumi, Mizuho and Masato board the same train home. Since they end up alone together, Mizuho feels a bit sorry for Kumo. Then she asks Masato if his home is really that close to the station, and he replies that yes, it's easy to walk there. Hearing this, Mizuho jokingly says that if the trains suddenly stop because of a typhoon, she will just stay over at his place. Before Mizuho can clarify that it was a joke, Masato calmly tells her, it's okay, and asks her to definitely let him know if that happens. Surprised, she asks if he is really okay with such a schedule, pointing to the moment where, by the rules, he should have been refused. But Masato insists on his point. The problem would be if she couldn't get home. Mizuho understands his reasoning but still can't help asking directly if he is really a guy. No matter how confused she is, Masato simply answers, yes. Mizuho falls silent, and in her mind she thinks, this looks extremely bad. The guy urgently needs a serious change in thinking. Then she explains to Masato that a girl simply can't be allowed to stay over at his place like that. He replies that he already knows that, but said it only because it's her. As if he would allow just anyone to stay at his home. Such an attitude immediately confuses Mizuho and leaves her speechless. Hiding her embarrassment, she mockingly asks if he shouldn't say such things to Kyumi instead of Mizuho, because Kyumi would probably run over if he did otherwise. Masato sharply responds by asking why Kyumi's name is even mentioned, and in Mizuho's mind she immediately calls him a clever idiot. She is troubled by the thought. If he continues to say such things, he might eventually lie about the train breaking down just to take advantage of his offer. Later, when the Masato station arrives, Mizuho also gets off. Because of this, Masato asks if she is not making any transfers. She replies that she has business in this area today. She says she will go to the salon she mentioned a few days ago. With that, they part ways. But in reality, she is heading to the bar to see the boy. It's still early, so she decides to kill some time before getting down to business. When the time finally comes, she enters the bar and carefully rereads all the rules just in case. Her curiosity is piqued. Is there some system here by which clients can request a university student as a host? Even as she approaches the entrance, she is overwhelmed by an incredible feeling of guilt for entering a bar meant for boys. But she cannot understand who exactly those reproaches are directed at. Is it toward the person destined for her or toward Masato? She sharply orders herself not to overthink. The most important thing, she has already managed to earn a decent amount just for today. Strengthening her resolve, she enters the bar and immediately notices the dim lighting. It gives the place a mature atmosphere. No sooner does she look around than the owner greets her with a familiar voice. The person standing before her is Masato. He looks completely stunned, and the same can be said about Mizuho. Without losing a second, she turns around and is about to leave. But Masato instantly grabs her hand and asks her to wait. Then he asks them to talk, even if only this once. Mizuho cannot force herself to respond. Her heart aches as she stands frozen in place. She is unbearably scared. Masato finds out that she visited a boys' bar and even the one where he works. She simply thinks, if she laughs it off, makes it clear that she just came to have fun, and throws in a question about why he ended up in such a place at all, everything can be settled. But she doesn't want Masato to misread her intentions. And still, her heart aches because Masato works amid this noise and moods. Her thoughts hopelessly tangle. One thought crashes into another, intertwines, confuses, until she can no longer understand what exactly she feels. Later, Masato tells her everything. Mizuho learns that his benefactor is the owner of the establishment, and Masato himself works there to pay off a debt. Masato confirms this and adds, no one is forcing him. Miho finally understands, and the puzzle pieces together the reason why he was also nearby that day. He says even if he works only one shift a week, this job still helps pay for university. Mizuho understands his words, although this finally makes her realize how little she actually knows about Masato's life. When her questions run out, Masato asks what she is doing in the bar. As soon as Mitsugoho realizes he works there for his own reasons, she hurriedly explains everything so he doesn't confuse why she came. Having listened to her story to the end, Masato says he works there only once a week, so he doesn't know all the employees. To Mizuho, this sounds completely logical. Masato adds that maybe someone in the bar knows the person she is looking for, so he will help her find them. She immediately brightens and asks if he will really do this for her. Masato confirms, yes, he will help, although he honestly admits he is not sure this looks like a completely fair exchange. But just as he manages to continue, Mizuho suddenly gets up embarrassed. She finally notices how much older he looks in a suit. Then Masato asks her to keep his job a secret from Kyumi. Moved, she asks why, and he reminds her, Kyumi worries a lot. If she finds out he works somewhere like this, she will probably get angry. And according to him, when Kyumi is angry, she is truly terrible. But despite everything, Mitsugo suffers from guilt for hiding the secret from Kyumi. Sensing her hesitation, Masato begs her and promises he will properly help in the search for her fate, her destined partner. Mizuho is again remembered as kind, reliable, and incredible. Kyumi fell in love with a person who truly impresses. Kyumi trusted them so much that she introduced them, and now she and Masato share one secret between them. After a short pause, Mizuho finally agrees to keep it a secret, and Masato breathes noticeably easier. He thanks her and jokes that at school he finally got peace and quiet preserved for him, but Mizuho perceives the existence of their secret quite differently, as if it were something forbidden and special. And when she comes out and waves goodbye to him, Masato exhales with relief and mutters that his life was miraculously saved. And while he has no idea whom Mizuho's very doomed person is looking for, suddenly a hand falls on his shoulder from behind. This is Sarah, and she immediately comments on how cute Mizuho is as a little girl. Unexpectedly seeing her, Masato greets Sarah and asks if she is late today. Sarah sighs and replies that she is just a little late. Then she points with her hand in the direction where Mizuho went and asks who that girl was. Masato explains, Mizuho is his friend from university. Hearing this, Sarah asks if Mizuho really came all the way here just to see him. Masato immediately denies it. No, everything here is just a coincidence. Then Sarah bluntly reads out, so he has, it turns out, a girl like Mizuho, and these words throw Masato off track. Masato brushes it off, he never really thought about it that way. When Sarah notes that Mizuho is cute, he asks if she thinks so too. Then he agrees Mizuho is pretty and adds that she is really a good girl. After a short pause, Sarah quietly says, I understand. Suddenly the air becomes strange. Just as Masato calls her name, she brushes it off and snaps, it's nothing. Holding his hand, she suggests going inside the bar. Masato agrees. So both enter the establishment, and behind them the doors slowly close. Sarah looks over her shoulder, her eyes gaze cold, merciless.